the best plot twist from each One Piece arc. And I've spent over 200 hours rewatching every One Piece arc to make this video. You know I love making long videos, but with this one, I've completely lost my mind, because as I've said, we're gonna see the best plot twists from each One Piece arc. One Piece is a very long series, over 25 years, over 1100 episodes, and there are still quite a few more to come. And it's a work characterized by many things, but especially by surprising the viewer, as Oda loves to blow our minds, making us think one thing, then surprising us with another. And this is precisely what's called a plot twist. Something you never expected, and then suddenly a plot twist appears, leaving you speechless. So get ready, because this video will be intense, and this video will obviously be quite long, and I know many of you will put me on in the background while doing other things. I know many of you listen to me as you go to sleep. If so, good night. Some people listen while eating. If so, enjoy your meal. Others are doing many things like caring for their children, exercising, cleaning the house, or other activities. Whatever you're doing, let me know in the comments, because you know I'm interested, I'm very curious, and I love reading your replies. So tell me what you're doing while this video plays in the background. And obviously, these videos take a lot of work, so I'd really appreciate a like, a subscription, and hitting that hype button. But now, I'll shut up and we'll go straight to the best plot twist of each One Piece arc. In One Piece's first arc, Romance Dawn, we meet young Luffy and his idol, red-haired Shanks. It all seems like a simple introductory adventure. Luffy eats the Gomu Gomu fruit, which later isn't the Gomu Gomu, gets his characteristic straw hat, and dreams of becoming a pirate. But even in this beginning, there's a very shocking twist. It's when the bandit Higuma throws Luffy into the sea and a massive sea king is about to devour him that Shanks appears to save Luffy's life, losing his left arm in the process. A pirate so powerful sacrificing an arm for a child, and right at the start of the story, no one expected to see Shanks suffer such a loss. This moment not only surprises the viewer, but also defines Shanks' will and the value he sees in Luffy. Ultimately, Shanks smiles and gives his straw hat to Luffy, trusting he'll return it once he's a great pirate and has surpassed him. This emotional turn really shows the series' tone from the beginning. In One Piece, epic and unexpected moments go hand in hand with emotion and camaraderie. Let's move on to Orange Town. In the Orange Town arc, Luffy faces the eccentric clown Baggy, and we also meet Nami. At first, Nami seems like a cunning thief who temporarily joins Luffy, only to betray him when the opportunity arises. The first unexpected twist comes when Nami ties up and hands Luffy to Buggy, seemingly betraying him for money. As viewers, we're just getting to know Nami, and suddenly we wonder, has she really sold out to the villain already so quickly? Luckily, we soon see that Nami was actually just pretending to steal Buggy's treasure, and had no intention of harming Luffy. And this minor deception certainly keeps us on our toes regarding the character. But the major plot twist in Orange Town is protagonized by none other than Buggy. During the fight, Buggy notices Luffy's iconic straw hat and becomes absolutely enraged. Then we discover something truly impressive. Buggy actually knew Shanks back in the past. It turns out that both of them were part of the Pirate King's crew in their youth. Who would have imagined such a buffoon, launching cannons with his scarred face, had a link to Shanks? This fact connects their world in a surprising way. For Luffy and us viewers, it's a huge revelation that makes the One Piece world feel a bit smaller than it appears. A comical villain, suddenly, is tied to the legend of Gold D. Roger through Shanks. This unexpected twist gives much more depth to Buggy, proving he's no ordinary man, and to Shanks himself, whose legacy keeps on appearing. In summary, Orange Town blends apparent betrayals and past revelations, keeping us completely hooked. Nami pretends to be bad, Baggy turns out to have important connections, and Luffy ultimately wins. As a result, we trust Nami a little more, though she remains mysterious at this point, and we understand that in this world, everyone could be hiding something in their past. The Syrup Village arc presents Usopp and an enemy with a dual identity. At the beginning, Luffy and his companions arrive at Kaya's mansion, a sick girl whose butler, Karaja Dal, appears strictly loyal. Usopp, the local liar, warns that pirates are going to attack, but no one believes him. It all seems like a simple childish prank. Until the big twist of this arc is revealed. Butler Karaja Dal himself is actually Captain Kuro, a feared pirate who faked his own death. He had been undercover for 3 years as Kaya's servant, planning to gain her trust, then kill her and claim her entire fortune. And what a shock it was for the residents and for us, when in an instant, the refined and educated butler takes off his glasses with his peculiar sharp claws and reveals a sadistic smile, admitting his true evil identity. And seeing all the servants horrified to discover they'd lived for years with a bloodthirsty pirate is an unexpected great moment. From the viewer's perspective, we go from calm to tension in an instant. They had painted Kuro as a legend who had supposedly been executed, and suddenly it turns out he was right in front of us. This prolonged deception made Kuro an especially hateful villain. He betrayed Kaya's kindness and manipulated everyone. The impact is strong because One Piece shows us that not all villains are openly revealed from the start. Some hide in plain sight. Additionally, there's another small emotional twist in this arc. Usopp, known for his lies, raises the alarm about the pirate attack, but no one in the village believes him. Paradoxically, this time Usopp was telling the truth, and he ends up facing Kuro's pirates alone initially. The liar's irony, disbelieved even when truthful, adds much unexpected drama to the situation. Luckily, the others support him after confirming the threat. In summary, the Syrup Village arc stands out for Kuro's double life, an elaborate and unexpected betrayal plan, and for solidifying Usopp as braver than he appears. When Kuro is finally defeated by Luffy, we feel a sense of relief that the charade is over. It was an arc where we learned to distrust appearances. An ally can be a hidden foe, and the town's liar a hero when it matters. The Baratie arc will bring some memorable twists. The Baratie is a floating restaurant. Luffy needs a cook for his crew, and there we meet Sanji. Initially, the action centers on Don Krieg, a ruthless pirate who seeks food, then tries to take the Baratie by force. One would expect the typical fight against Krieg, but the first big plot twist comes from outside, and that's when Dracule Mihawk appears, one of the 7 warlords of the sea of the Shichibukai, chasing Krieg. Mihawk, with complete calm, cuts into pieces the enormous fleet of Don Krieg with a single slash of his sword, and it was truly impactful. At that moment, the viewers realized that the world is so much bigger. If we thought Zoro was strong, Mihawk easily proves us wrong. Zoro challenges Mihawk to fulfill his dream, but Mihawk defeats him with a small knife, practically toying with him. Seeing Zoro, the proud bounty hunter, lose so humiliatingly was unexpected and left us as stunned as the characters. That twist showed us the abysmal difference in power that exists in the sea. Out there are monsters like Mihawk, of whom we had never even heard. However, the most important twist at the Baratie has emotional impact. Nami betrays the crew and flees with the Going Merry. Amidst Luffy's chaos with Don Krieg and Sanji's debate to join, Nami seizes the chance, stealing the ship and treasure. This move leaves us stunned. After all they'd been through with Buggy and Kuro, Nami was a selfish thief. For Luffy and the others, it's a backstabbing betrayal, especially for Usopp, who was on the ship when she abandoned him on a small island. The viewer is left filled with doubts and conflicting emotions. Was Nami merely pretending to be his friend? This final arc plot twist prepares the ground for the next, as we intuit there's more behind Nami's actions. Baratie then mixes the epic with the personal. First, it blows our minds with Mihawk and Zoro's defeat, expanding the series' horizon, then breaks our hearts with Nami's departure. At the arc's end, Luffy gained a new nakama, Sanji, but temporarily lost Nami. This roller coaster of unexpected events makes it clear that One Piece won't always follow a predictable path. Allies can leave, and great world powers can appear without warning. The Arlong Park arc is where One Piece truly gets emotionally intense, giving us a plot twist that redefined everything we wanted to know about Nami. Luffy and the others arrive at Nami's hometown, Koko Village, dominated by Arlong, a cruel fishman. At first, Nami seemed to be a willing member of Arlong's crew, acting coldly towards her former pirate comrades. We were shocked at Baratie, thinking Nami was a greedy traitor, but soon her true motives came to light. It turns out Nami had been forced for years to work for Arlong, stealing treasures and mapping, hoping to buy her village's freedom. And here everything makes sense. His apparent betrayal wasn't out of malice or personal ambition, but part of a secret sacrifice. Arlong had promised her that if she paid him 100 million berries, he would free the village. Nami, desperate to save her people and her sister Nojiko, endured that role of a villain hated by everyone for 8 long years. When we discovered this along with the Straw Hats, the perception of Nami's character takes a 180-degree turn. From a thief to a traitor, she becomes a tragic and heroic victim. The climax of the twist arrives when Arlong, being the scoundrel he is, makes Captain Nezumi, a corrupt marine rat, confiscate all of Nami's money just before she could complete the amount. Arlong never meant to keep his word, he wanted to keep her enslaved. This scene is gut-wrenching. Nami in the street stabbing Arlong's tattoo on her shoulder with tears of rage and despair, realizing she'd been tricked, and the whole village rose against Arlong. As spectators, we feel the helplessness and the betrayal just as deeply as she does. Then Luffy arrives, gently stops her, takes off his treasured straw hat and places it on Nami's head while she's crying, and finally asks her for help, telling her to help him. A moment that, by the way, gives me goosebumps. That twist is one of the most emotional and unexpected. Nami, the independent girl who seemed to only care for money, breaks down, revealing her true self and her need for her friends. From then on, the arc becomes a triumphant liberation. Luffy and company, with renewed fury, fight against Arlong and his crew to avenge all of Nami's suffering. Luffy epically defeats Arlong, destroying the room where he kept Nami's drawn maps, symbolizing her freedom from his yoke. The village is liberated. Nami genuinely smiles at the end and decides to continue sailing with her nakama. In summary, the biggest plot twist of the Arlong Park arc is the revelation of Nami's past and her secret sacrifice. We go from distrusting her to understanding her and loving her so much more. It was unexpected from the viewer's perspective to discover that Nami's coldness hid a wounded heart carrying her people's fate. This arc taught us that behind every character there can be a deep story, and rarely had words of help been so moving. One Piece stole some tears with this twist, but also gave us one of the best victories of the early voyages, Logtown, the city of beginning and end. It's the final arc in the East Blue, with a surprise twist linked to Luffy's mysterious past. Luffy visits the execution site of the Pirate King, Gold D. Roger. You'd think this transition arc would just be for stocking up before the Grand Line, but a lot happens. The most unexpected moment occurs during Luffy's impromptu execution. Yes, that's right. Buggy and his old cronies managed to capture Luffy and prepare to behead him on the same scaffold where Roger died. A truly ironic and terrifying situation. For a few minutes, it seems Luffy will really die laughing, just as Roger did. And as viewers, we were on the edge of our seats, thinking, how on earth will he get out of this? And that's when the miraculous twist occurs. In the very instant before Buggy drops the blade on Luffy, a lightning bolt falls from the sky, thwarting the execution. Suddenly, an electric storm breaks out over Logtown. It may seem like a coincidence, but from the smoke, Monkey D. Dragon, a mysterious man who saves Luffy from Smoker and the Navy. This guy we barely see, with his face etched by the wind, turns out to be Luffy's father, though we wouldn't know this until much later. At the time, we only know he's someone tremendously powerful and influential, and the wind and lightning seem to obey him. Even Smoker, a rather formidable marine captain, decides not to confront him. For the viewer, seeing this stranger help Luffy is a total surprise. Who is he? Why save him? The scene feels almost supernatural. Smoker calls him Dragon, and we're left wondering, what role does he play now? This twist was brilliant because it connected Luffy to something much bigger without clear explanations, leaving us quite intrigued. Dragon appears out of nowhere, saves his son with an enigmatic smile, and vanishes with the wind. Then Smoker, astonished, asks, why would the world's most wanted man be here helping a rookie pirate? The world's most wanted man. Ultimately, the Logtown arc gave us that unexpected timely rescue, and seeing Luffy laugh at the guillotine, facing death like Roger, was a powerful nod. Personally, it's my favorite panel of the series. Logtown closes the East Blue saga, showing Luffy's destiny could be tied to great figures and events. The saving Storm and Dragon's appearance hint at more surprises and legendary figures awaiting us in the Grand Line. It was a perfect close before diving into the Grand Line's unknown, feeling mysterious forces were guiding Luffy's journey. Reverse Mountain Arc marks the Straw Hat's strange, triumphant entry into the Grand Line. Though it's a short arc, it also gives us an unexpectedly emotional moment with an adorable twist. After climbing Reverse Mountain through its reverse currents, Luffy and his crew suddenly encounter a gigantic whale named Laboon. At first, Laboon appears as a monstrous obstacle, crashing into the Going Merry. The crew ends up inside the whale and meets the eccentric Crocus, the lighthouse keeper. Everything is very surreal, and you'd expect escaping a giant whale to be the main thing. But then Laboon's story disarms us. Laboon has been waiting 50 years for pirates who promise to return. He's hitting the mountain again and again with his head, crying from his loneliness. This emotional arc twist turns a giant creature into a symbol of touching friendship and loyalty. No one expected the whale that almost swallowed Luffy to have such a sad backstory. The Straw Hats, and with us, went from tension to empathy in minutes. Laboon had befriended a pirate crew from the West Blue, the Rumbar, a name we'd learn much later, who crossed into the Grand Line, promising to return for him. 5 decades later, poor Laboon faithfully crashed against the Red Line, believing he could break through it. This discovery surprises everyone. Even Zoro and Sanji are slightly moved behind their serious faces. Suddenly we understand that One Piece is also about this: promises, dreams, and long waits. Luffy's handling of the situation is equally unexpected and amusing. To stop Laboon from hurting himself, Luffy headbutts the enormous whale, and then draws his own smiling face flag on Laboon's head. He makes a promise to the giant whale that someday he'll return to finish their unresolved fight. In other words, Luffy invents a new promise, so Laboon has a reason to keep waiting. But now for them, what a way to solve it. No one would expect the way to comfort a giant whale was a postponed friendly fight. Luffy did in minutes what no one had in 50 years. Calm Laboon's pain with wit and heart. That's right, the main twist of Reverse Mountain is discovering that the start of the Grand Line isn't just danger and geographic madness, but also heartwarming stories. The encounter with Laboon seems like a strange detour, but it turns out to be a precious and surprising moment. Additionally, unbeknownst to us, this plot would be crucial much later, when a certain musician skeleton appears, but that's for later. Right away, we're left with the idea that anything can happen in the Grand Line, even befriending a melancholic whale. Reverse Mountain taught us to expect the unexpected, even in the form of an emotional friendship with a colossal animal. Whiskey Peak is the first town the Straw Hats visit in the Grand Line, and what a deceptive welcome awaits them. When Luffy and his crew arrive exhausted, they find a village that welcomes them as heroes. A grand banquet, lively music, a huge party, everything over the top. It seems like a true paradise of hospitality for pirates. As spectators at first, perhaps we suspect a little, thinking it's too good, maybe, to be true. And rightly so, the sudden twist arrives in the early morning. It turns out all the partygoers of Whiskey Peak are actually Baroque Works bounty hunters. The party was a trap to get the pirates drunk and capture them easily. Overnight, the music stops, and the friendly villagers pull out their weapons. The whole town was their hidden enemy, from the mayor to the musicians. This deception catches us off guard, turning the festive atmosphere into a deadly ambush. Zoro, not fully drunk, is the first to notice, ending up alone against an entire town of bounty hunters, all to protect his sleeping crew. It was unexpected and fun to watch Zoro fight, half laughing at the obvious. Did you really think a few drinks could take us down? However, the most unexpected part of Whiskey Peak is yet to come amidst that chaos. Amidst the confusion, we meet two alleged Baroque Works agents, Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine, whom Zoro initially defeats. And here's another key plot twist. Miss Wednesday turns out to be Princess Nefertari Vivi of the Alabasta Kingdom, a princess infiltrated in the criminal organization. Vivi is revealed after her bodyguard Egaram, Mr. 8, implores the Straw Hats to help save Alabasta. It was a surprising moment from the viewer's perspective. The clumsy girl on a giant duck, who seemed like just another villain, was actually a victim who risked her life, entering the lion's den to investigate Crocodile. This twist completely alters our view of her and plunges us into Arabasta's main saga plot. So, Whiskey Peak gave us a double dose of twists. First, a town full of fake friends, where even Luffy and Zoro briefly fought each other over a comical misunderstanding, which was also unexpected and hilarious. And second, an enemy who was actually a crucial ally. When the arc ends, instead of adding a problem, the Straw Hats gain a temporary princess with a desperate mission. The viewer is left intrigued. Baroque Works is proving more important than it seemed, and now Luffy is caught up in something huge, completely unaware. It was truly astonishing to witness how a festive town turned into the gateway for a brewing civil war. Without a doubt, we learn not to trust even the kindest welcomes in Grand Line, and above all, to look twice at every new character, because they might be more than they appear. In Little Garden, the adventure takes us to a prehistoric island full of dinosaurs, but the real twist isn't the T-Rexes, but the betrayal amidst honor. The Straw Hats arrive on this island where two giant warriors, Dory and Brogy, have been in a century-long stalemate duel. It seems like a routine survival arc, dodging dinosaurs, meeting the giants, and waiting for the log post to charge to continue their journey. However, Baroque Works gets involved again with its agents Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week, and it does so with foul play. The unexpected twist occurs when Mr. 3 sabotages the Giants' duel. He offers Dory and Brogy beer barrels to celebrate their final battle, but hides a bomb in Dory's that explodes inside his stomach. A truly dirty trick. Dory, badly hurt, thinks Brogy cheated, breaking their pact of honor, attacking him furiously. As viewers, this deeply angers and shocks us. We go from an honorable duel between friends to a tragic, confused scene caused by cowardly villains. The idea of someone interfering in a 100-year duel from behind is shocking and makes you instantly hate Mr. 3. While the Giants are weakened by the trap, Mr. 3 captures some Straw Hats with his wax. Zoro, Nami, and Vivi are about to become giant wax statues. Everything gets complicated, and one wonders how they'll escape this. The unexpected climax comes from Usopp, the group's most cowardly member. Inspired by the giant's bravery, he devises an ingenious plan to save his friends. Usopp sets the wax on fire with oil, creating a blaze with Karoo, Vivi's duck, which melts Mr. Three's scorching wax trap, freeing his companions just in time. Zoro's moment, almost accepting death, posing as a heroic statue as he bid farewell, his legs already half petrified, is dramatic yet unexpectedly comical. Fortunately, thanks to Usopp and Luffy, Mr. Three's plan, 3 fails and the Straw Hats counterattack. Another fun twist in this arc is Sanji's unexpected intervention. As he was separated from the group, Sanji manages to trick Crocodile himself via Denden Mushi amidst the confusion. Sanji is in a hidden house of Mr. Three, taking a call from Crocodile, alias Mr. Zero, and he's impersonating Mr. Three, reporting that the Straw Hats were eliminated. Who would have thought Sanji would talk to the main villain unknowingly? Crocodile, which was a well-crafted lie. Sanji's trick is unexpected and useful, and thanks to that, Baroque Works stops chasing them momentarily, and the crew gets an eternal pose to Alabasta. It was a quite funny and cunning surprise that closed the arc in a brilliant way. In summary, Little Garden mixed vile traps in an age-old duel and ingenious solutions from our unexpected heroes. We were surprised by Baroque Works agents' low tactics and Usopp's soaring courage, especially when critical. We also learned the Giant's curious lesson. After clearing the misunderstanding, Dory and Brogy resumed their eternal battle as if nothing had happened. And with his help, Luffy defeats Mr. Three. The arc leaves us satisfied that honor was restored. Mr. Three got what he deserved, and with the anticipation that the great Alabasta saga ahead, fueled by the eternal pose, will be truly impressive. The Drum Island arc delivers snow, sakura, and an emotional, unexpected, and moving twist rather than a conspiracy plot. On this winter island, Luffy seeks a doctor for Nami, and we meet Tony Chopper, the blue-nosed reindeer. Curiously, Drum Kingdom has almost no doctors because the ex-king Wapol hoarded them all. This arc's twist is more an emotional discovery, the story of Chopper and Dr. Hiruluk that no one imagined would hold such weight. Hiruluk was a half-mad but kind doctor who adopted Chopper and was obsessed with curing the country's illness, the people's soul sickness under Wapol's tyranny. Hiruluk believed he could make pink cherry blossoms bloom in Drum, whose sight would heal people's hearts. Honestly, entering this arc, we only expected to get medicine for Nami and defeat a gluttonous villain, but One Piece gave us something more profound. The most unexpected and powerful moment comes when Hiruluk, already mortally ill, sacrifices himself to save the dignity of the kingdom's doctors. Wapol had tricked Hiruluk, claiming 20 doctors were gravely ill to lure him into a trap. It turned out to be a lie, but Hiruluk still gives a moving speech about how wonderful life is and drinks his suicidal experimental medicine to die on his own terms before allowing Wapol to execute him. That speech, "Do you know when a man dies? It's not when his heart stops or when he's shot. A man dies when he is forgotten." It's beautiful and unexpected in the middle of an arc that seemed quite light. Hiruluk dies exploding, literally, but happy to have lived a meaningful life. And his dream, improbable from the start, proves not to have been in vain. Hiruluk's companion, Dr. Kureha, at the arc's end, does something truly surprising. He launches Hiruluk's pink powder into the sky, making a gigantic pink cherry blossom bloom in the snow. The snowy mountains turn pink, just like Sakura. Everyone is left speechless, and so are we watching from the screen. This magically realized vision symbolizes the healing of the Drum Kingdom after Wapol's defeat. A poetic visual twist, unexpected in a pirate saga. Cherry blossoms in winter, but One Piece made it possible, giving the arc a hopeful end. As far as the purest plot is concerned, the Drum arc has minor but interesting twists. One is discovering that a pirate named Blackbeard attacked Drum before Luffy and the others arrived, which explains why Wapol, the cowardly king, was fleeing the kingdom. We don't see Blackbeard directly, but this detail is a foreshadowing of future problems and was intriguing at the time, making us wonder who this Blackbeard was that made the villain flee before we got there. Another mini twist is Wapol, after his comical defeat by Luffy, eats himself with his bizarre fruit, a sight only this series offers, for an unexpected laugh. Ultimately, the biggest plot twist of Drum is the emotional depth of Chopper and his mentor. We went from seeing Chopper as a scared deer to understanding his pain and dreams thanks to Hiruluk's legacy, and what we thought was a trivial arc starts leaving us a message of hope. The impossible vision of Drum's cherry blossoms came true. The transformation of the snowy landscape into a field of pink flowers was as unexpected as it was inspiring, and sends Chopper off to Luffy's crew on a warm note. One Piece reminded us here that battles are not fought only with fists, but also with ideals that are capable of blooming even in the snow. The Alabasta arc is a whirlwind of conspiracies, battles, and revelations, but a twist stands out involving one of the antagonists, becoming an ally. The civil war orchestrated in the shadows by Crocodile keeps the viewer on edge. We already knew that Crocodile, Mr. Zero, was the villain, but the people of Alabasta considered him a hero, which in itself is already an interesting dynamic. The savior was the cause of the drought. However, the biggest plot twist comes towards the end of the battle against Crocodile. Nico Robin, Miss All Sunday, betrays Crocodile, saves Luffy, then joins the crew. What? Robin, whom we knew as the mysterious second-in-command of Baroque Works, had been cold and ruthless. We even saw her knock out Pell and Toy with Cobra. The last person we imagined sharing the ship with Luffy was her, and yet, after Crocodile's defeat, Robin rescues Luffy from the rubble of the tomb where they fought, and later appears on the ship asking Luffy to let her join. It was extremely unexpected from the viewer's perspective. First, during the final fight in the catacombs, Robin chose not to let Luffy die when Crocodile had him on the ropes. She herself was injured and decided to give Luffy Crocodile's poison antidote and pull him from the quicksand. Seeing the villain, until then, help our hero was quite surprising. After everything ends, Robin explains she no longer wishes to live, as her search for Pluton's poneglyph didn't yield the desired truth she yearned for. But Luffy, in his casual style, saves her from self-destruction, accepting her into his crew without many questions. Robin's incorporation was a huge plot twist. We went from seeing her as a dangerous enemy to having her seated on the Going Merry as a new Nakama. Many fans were absolutely shocked. The girl who was with Crocodile is now a Straw Hat. This turn solidified an idea. Luffy can win over even former enemies with his nature. For Robin, it was the first time someone rescued her from collapse, both literal and emotional, offering her a place to belong. It was a totally unexpected and exciting change of sides that would be important in future sagas. Also, Robin in Alabasta has other surprising moments. For instance, when Pell, the Hawk, sacrifices himself carrying the giant bomb far from Lugarna's clock tower to save the city. We all thought Pell died heroically in that nuclear explosion in the sky, though later the epilogue reveals he's miraculously alive. The twist that Pell survived was also very unexpected for many of us. It was somewhat confusing because the scene suggested he had died, but at the crucial moment, Pell sacrificing himself gave us a lump in our throats. Even Bon Clay and Mr. Two have their extravagant villain's redemptive turn, helping us escape by disguising and sacrificing themselves to deceive the Navy. Seeing Bon Clay say goodbye as a friend was an emotional plot twist for such a comically antagonistic character. However, the most significant twist is undoubtedly Robin becoming an ally. At the arc's end, the Straw Hats leave Alabasta, having achieved peace with an unexpected new member. It's something we never predicted at this saga's start. This reinforces the idea that in One Piece, you never know who will become a Nakama, and also plants seeds of mystery about Robin's past, her interest in poneglyphs, and the Void Century, topics that would become fundamental. In conclusion, Alabasta offered a feast of twists, from ancient weapon revelations to unthinkable friendships. But Robin's decision to join Luffy blew our minds, proving even a lethal enemy can find trust and a home with our heroes. The Gaia arc acts as a prelude to the Skypiea adventure, and though short, it contains a powerful thematic plot twist, contrasting the mockery of dreamers with the validation of these dreams. In Gaia, Luffy and Zoro are humiliated in Mocktown by Bellamy and other pirates who laugh at the mere idea of the City of Gold in the sky. The big surprise of this arc is that, against all skepticism, Sky Island truly exists, and Mont Blanc Nolan's silly legend was true. Although confirmation comes in Skypiea, the seed of the twist is in Gaia. All of Gaia mocks the madmen who chase impossible dreams. Bellamy even says the age of dreams is over, and Luffy won't waste punches on those without vision. However, at the arc's end, when Luffy defeats Bellamy with a single punch in one of the most satisfying moments since he endured so much before getting him back, it becomes clear who was right. Bellamy's unexpected one-shot is almost a plot twist itself. Luffy takes all the insults in Mocktown without reacting, and then suddenly, when Bellamy harms Cricket and steals the gold, Luffy throws a punch that knocks him flat on the ground. Bellamy, who was so arrogant with his Spring Fruit, is instantly knocked out. The tavern that used to mock Luffy falls silent. That scene surprises us because Luffy rarely resolves a fight so quickly. It was Oda's clear message that blind arrogance and mocking dreams do have consequences. But the true poetic plot twist is the existence of Sky Island itself, thanks to the maps and clues that Mont Blanc Cricket, Nolan's descendant, shares. Adding to this, the knock-up stream arrives, and Luffy and his crew literally launch into the sky. Against all odds, the Going Merry ascends a gigantic column of water heading towards the unknown. That transition from Gaia to Skypiea is a huge moment that makes the viewer's heart race. Are they really going to an island in the clouds? Well, yes, everything Bellamy laughed at was real. The biggest surprise is seeing our heroes reach a white sea high in the sky. Furthermore, Gaia introduces us to Marshal D. Teach, Blackbeard. Although at first we didn't know his name, this strange character Luffy argues with about desserts in a bar has ideas opposite Bellamy's. He believes that dreams never die. Later we understand it was Blackbeard and his crew who crossed paths with Luffy in Mocktown. When Luffy leaves the island, Nami comments, "What's wrong with that guy?" And Luffy says, "It's not him, it's them," subtly indicating that the strange people they met, Teach and company, were a crew. That retrospective revelation is a clever little twist we might notice upon review, but at the time, it's a mysterious detail. In summary, Gaia's arc gives us the most important attitude shift. One Piece consistently reaffirms its central thesis, that dreams and legends are truly worth pursuing. Witnessing the powerful slap of reality, or perhaps more accurately fantasy, that Luffy delivered to Bellamy was glorious and utterly unexpected in its execution, and the journey towards the sky confirms that in this world the impossible, things like a treasure-filled island in the clouds, can indeed be completely real. Gaia serves as a powerful reminder that one must believe, and that is a truly beautiful narrative twist. History sides with dreamers, surprisingly and decisively. In Skypiea, the Sky Saga, a mythical adventure unfolds, where the most notable plot twist is the validation of an ancient legend and the almost comical defeat of a god. The Straw Hats reach an island in the clouds, a testament to believing in the impossible. But the arc's main plot twist is how Mont Blanc Nolan's story and his City of Gold are vindicated. For centuries, Nolan was remembered as a liar for claiming he saw a golden city in Gaia. In Skypiea, we discover the City of Gold existed high in the sky. It was Shandora, carried to the sky by the knock-up stream. The emotional climax is when Luffy defeats the self-proclaimed god Enel and rings the legendary golden bell. This bell's toll, resonating from the sky to the bottom of the sea, is an epic moment confirming the truth. Cricket, Nolan's descendant, searching for the City of Gold, sees the golden flash in the sky and understands his ancestor did not lie. 400 years of lies are erased in one brilliant instant. For the viewer who witnessed Nolan's tragedy unjustly executed in a flashback, this is extremely satisfying and unexpected. Who would have expected that Luffy, by punching Enel so hard he sent him flying against the bell, would simultaneously be redeeming the legend of a man dead for centuries? It's a beautiful twist. Luffy's journey not only saves Skypiea, it also settles a historical debt. Now let's talk about God Enel. Another unexpected, even humorous twist is how Luffy's rubber makes him Enel's perfect nemesis. Enel has the Gorogoro fruit, the electricity fruit, and believes himself invincible, literally a god of lightning. For a good part of the arc, we see him as untouchable. Lightning bolts that incinerate anyone. His mantra, which is observation haki, predicts movements. No one can touch him until Luffy arrives and, surprise, Luffy is immune to electricity. All this because he's made of rubber. Seeing Enel's face of absolute bewilderment, that famous Enel face meme with his jaw dropped, when his lightning bolts had no effect on Luffy, was glorious. The almighty god Enel suddenly looks vulnerable to a Straw Hat brat, and neither he nor we expected it. It was an ingenious and fun combat twist. From then on, the fight evens out. Luffy still has to figure out Enel's mantra, but the fact his greatest power is useless against Luffy is already an incredible twist. Skypiea also holds a crucial revelation for us, though it occurs very late. The Shandora Poneglyph contained a message from Pirate King Gold D. Roger. Robin discovers that Roger wrote that he'd been there and guided the story for whoever came after him. This is a small twist that makes us reflect. Roger knew the true Void Century. He found the City of Gold and the Bell. The Pirate King had been to Skypiea. It's unexpected to find Roger's legacy on that golden bell, adding even more mystique to the adventure. In summary, Skypiea's big plot twist confirms Nolan's truth. The City of Gold wasn't a myth, but a reality hidden in the sky. The way it manifests, with that bell strike illuminating the sky and reaching Cricket's ears below, is one of the most emotional and surprising moments. Also, in a lighter but equally satisfying aspect, is Enel's humiliating defeat by Luffy, thanks to a simple property of rubber that no one saw coming. It made us laugh and applaud. Skypiea teaches us that One Piece loves to redeem legends and play with the most unexpected weaknesses to bring down the powerful. Who would have thought a lightning god would only fear a rubber boy? Well, that's the charm of this story's twists. The Long Ring Long Land arc is known for the eccentric Davy backfight against Foxy and his pirate crew, which is mostly humorous. One might think this arc is comedic filler, even though it's canon in the manga, but right at the end, it hits us with a surprising and serious twist. After all of Foxy's tricky games, Luffy's crew emerges victorious, recovering their Nakama and winning pirate flags. Everything seems to end in laughter until Admiral Aokiji appears. That's right, without warning, one of the 3 Navy admirals, Kozan, alias Aokiji, arrives in person. We're coming from a relaxed mood, and suddenly, an enormous tension takes over. The twist is the sudden introduction of an admiral's overwhelming power. Aokiji freezes the entire sea with a single touch, easily immobilizes Luffy, and almost kills Robin and the others from hypothermia, all with astonishing calm, and we go from joking with Foxy to fearing for the crew's lives in a matter of minutes. Aokiji's display of power is chilling, literally. I remember seeing that and thinking, how are they going to get out of this? Is this the end of Robin so soon after joining? Aokiji says he just came to look and deal with Robin, whom he deems dangerous for her past. When he completely freezes Robin in an instant, we were frozen too. Luffy has to desperately fight an enemy who is basically invulnerable, an Iceman whose body reforms. What's more, Aokiji isn't even there with full murderous intent. He does it almost lazily, almost as a personal favor to someone. For old Garp, he mentions, who we later learned is Luffy's grandfather. But even without murderous intent, he almost wiped everyone out. In the end, seeing his crew in danger, Luffy faces Aokiji alone so they can flee, and Aokiji freezes him completely with one touch when Luffy tries to punch him. The captain became an ice statue in seconds. That was a huge shock. We'd never seen Luffy defeated so absolutely and so easily. Luckily, Aokiji, showing a strange sense of honor, decides not to shatter frozen Luffy, which would have killed him. Considering his debt paid, he leaves, leaving Luffy frozen but alive. The crew quickly thaws him out, but everyone is terrified. This encounter is a major plot twist for the series' tone. It shows us that even though Luffy is strong in the Grand Line and beyond in the New World, there are marine forces and monstrous enemies who can crush them at will. It's a reality check we didn't expect right after Foxy's antics. Oda intentionally lowered our guard with humor, then reminded us that the world of One Piece has very dangerous aspects. So the biggest plot twist of Long Ring Long Land is the sudden appearance of a top marine and the instant beating he delivers. Seeing the normally capable Robin trembling in fear upon recognizing Aokiji is a chilling prelude. And as viewers, we share that fear, realizing there are enemies Luffy cannot defeat yet, not even close. In conclusion, after a light pirate arc, One Piece surprises us with an admiral, leaving us with Luffy and his crew's first major defeat. This drastic shift in tone left us speechless and sparked much intrigue. Aokiji mentioned Robin and Ohara, revealing her dark past and the Navy's watchful eye. This all came out of nowhere in the arc's final minutes. A masterful way to shake up the story. We went from laughing to trembling in a blink, knowing things would get serious in the Grand Line. The Water 7 arc is one of the series' most dramatic, filled with twists and revelations that left the audience stunned. In fact, the most dangerous enemies here initially seemed like our friends. The biggest plot twist in Water 7 happens when the true identity of several beloved city characters is revealed. The award-winning carpenters of the Gallela Company turn out to be undercover agents of CP9, a secret unit of the world government. This betrayal took us completely by surprise. Luffy and company had lived with them. Iceberg, the mayor, and his loyal builders like Poli, Lucci, Kaku, and Khalifa seemed like potential allies, or at least decent people. Even Lucci and Kaku briefly fought alongside Luffy and Zoro against the Frankie family at first, earning our trust. But on one fateful night, when they try to assassinate Iceberg, Lucci, Kaku, Khalifa, and even the bartender Blueno, they remove their masks and reveal they were CP9 spies all that time. Seeing Lucci, who until then spoke through his pigeon, suddenly coldly pronounce Iceberg's death sentence left us completely frozen. How? The serious and skilled Lucci was an agent. Kaku with his funny nose too? It was a shock because Water 7 had made us fond of these peculiar characters. The revelation scene is brilliant. The 4 traitor agents mask up and practice Rokushiki, showing lethal skills. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and company arrive late and only find the aftermath. But as the audience, we see it all and couldn't believe it. This internal betrayal elevated the story to another level, showing that the government has eyes everywhere, and that Nico Robin's plot was more complicated than thought. And speaking of Nico Robin, another powerful twist in this arc is Nico Robin's supposed betrayal of the Straw Hats. Suddenly, Robin disappears and is accused of inciting against Aelboon. Everything suggests that Robin turned bad, or always was, collaborating with CP9. The Straw Hats and we are bewildered. Robin, who had earned a place in the crew, abandoned them without explanation. The emotional blow is strong, then we'll discover that Robin actually surrendered to CP9 to protect her friends, as they threatened her with a buster call, a massive bombardment if she didn't cooperate. But for a good stretch of Water 7, we felt the sting that Robin left voluntarily. It's an emotional twist. The girl who found a home with Luffy now secretly sacrifices for them, making them believe she betrayed them. It breaks your heart to see Sanji or Chopper devastated by Robin's departure, and Luffy furious, trying to understand why his crewmate would do such a thing. And there are even more twists. The internal conflict between Luffy and Usopp over the Going Merry's fate. Usopp leaves the crew after losing a duel against Luffy for the ship. No one saw it coming, the band breaking from within. It was unexpected to see our Nakamas, our longtime friends, seriously fighting. The argument started because the Going Merry was irreparably damaged, another unexpected blow to the heart, and Luffy decided to change ships, which Usopp refused. Suddenly, this emotional rift occurred, and Usopp temporarily left after one of the series' saddest scenes. An original member leaving the crew was unthinkable until it happened, so Water 7 has multiple plot twists. The revelation of CP9 embedded among allies, Robin's mysterious betrayal, Usopp's departure, and the devastating news their beloved ship Merry was doomed. All these twists heightened the drama. To pick the most impactful, Lucci Kaku and the CP9's double lives left us in total shock. It was a moment of "I can't believe it," which marks the true beginning of this saga's battle. This arc demonstrates that One Piece does not fear breaking our hearts or our trust. What seemed like an adventure to recruit a carpenter turned into a plot of espionage, betrayal, and the crew's disintegration. What an unexpected roller coaster Water 7 was, preparing us for the climax of Enies Lobby, where all those pieces would fall into place. The Enies Lobby arc is the spectacular conclusion to the Water 7 saga, packed with unexpected and thrilling moments. The objective here is clear: rescue Nico Robin from CP9's clutches at the world government's judicial HQ. Among many things, one stands out for its emotion and significance: the miraculous appearance of the Going Merry to save the crew. At the very last moment, after intense battles with the CP9 and the Buster Call destroying the island, Luffy and the others seemed completely cornered on the bridge, just as everything was collapsing in flames. They had no ship to escape until out of nowhere, the Going Merry suddenly appeared, sailing by itself to pick them up. Yes, the very ship we were all sad about, unable to sail, arrives to rescue them. It was a truly unexpected, but at the same time, moving moment. The Merry, as if it had a soul, didn't abandon its Nakama in their darkest hour. The Straw Hats leap into the void and land on the Merry's deck, narrowly escaping total destruction. As a viewer, that moment gives you goosebumps. How did the ship get there? Later, it's revealed that Iceberg found it adrift and repaired it to send it off. But at the time, we saw it as a small, almost magical miracle. Corresponding to the crew's love for it, it's the arc's most emotional twist. The spirit of the Going Merry comes to rescue its friends one last time. This turn leads to another sad surprise. Immediately after escaping in safe waters, the Merry literally splits in two. The crew must give him a Viking funeral at sea, setting him on fire to rest. The ship even speaks with Merry's voice, the Klabauterman, asking for their forgiveness for not carrying them further. Tears for everyone. It was unexpected a ship could stir such deep emotion, but its sudden appearance and then its goodbye, Oda shattered us and honored the Merry in minutes. Enies Lobby also marks a pivotal moment in Luffy's life, though technically it's revealed right after, in the post-Enies Lobby mini-arc. We know the truth about his family. Back in Water 7, Vice Admiral Garp, Luffy's grandpa, and his friend Kobe show up. In a series of funny, revealing events, Garp drops the bomb. Luffy's the son of Monkey D. Dragon, the Revolutionary Army leader. How? That's right, that mysterious man who saved Luffy in Logtown is his father. It was a huge lore twist that perhaps, in retrospect, some suspected, but at that moment many of us were in shock. Also learning that the marine hero, Garp, is his grandfather was a fun and unexpected fact, seeing Luffy get scared of the old man's punches. This family revelation not only surprises you, but connects many dots. Dragon, Logtown, the D initial, etc. We also understand why the world government called Dragon the most wanted man in the world. Luffy has revolutionary blood. Back to the Enies Lobby action. Another unexpected great moment is when Soga King, Usopp in disguise, takes off his mask and shouts to encourage Luffy against Lucci. Luffy, keep fighting, you must win. She wants to see us all again, referring to Robin. That was an emotional turning point for Luffy because hearing his supposedly absent friend's voice gave him the second win needed to win. Usopp breaking Robin's I want to live barrier by burning the government flag was in itself a shock of bravery. But in summary, the biggest plot twist of Enies' lobby was the last minute salvation by the Going Merry. No one, absolutely no one, expected the ship to become the hero of the story for a moment. In a saga where we saw giants knocking down judicial doors, Robin screaming she wants to live, Luffy debuting his second and third gear, it's ultimately the faithful vessel that steals the most surprising moments. The Merry taught us that even objects in One Piece can have souls and feelings, and its timely arrival made us believe in miracles in this world. After that, the saga concludes perfectly, revealing Luffy's family ties, further expanding the story's scope in a way we never anticipated in prior arcs. Enies' lobby's ending left us with adrenaline pumping, and our hearts shattered for the Merry, but full of expectations for Dragon and new destinations. The Thriller Bark arc unfolds on a ghostly ship island filled with zombies and nightmare creatures, but the biggest plot twist isn't supernatural, but pure human loyalty. After defeating the zombie lord, Gecko Moria, the crew believes the nightmare is over. They are exhausted but happy to have recovered their shadows and gained a new nakama. This was also a heartwarming twist. Brook belonged to the Rumbar Pirates, connecting to that promise on Reverse Mountain after so many chapters. However, just when they think they can rest, Bartholomew Kuma appears, another member of the Seven Warlords, sent by the government to finish the job. Kuma's arrival is a chilling twist. Imagine, the heroes just defeated a Shichibukai with great effort, can barely move, and another, more mysterious and seemingly unstoppable Shichibukai lands. Kuma has the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi and incredibly rare abilities. Nobody can touch him, and he easily eliminates the few conscious ones, Zoro, Sanji, and everyone. As a viewer, you wonder, how will they get out of this if they're already at their limit? It's then that one of the most unexpected and epic scenes in One Piece happens, as Zoro sacrifices himself to save Luffy. Kuma offers a deal. He won't destroy everyone if they hand over Luffy's head. Obviously, no one would accept that, so Zoro steps in, offering to take Luffy's punishment. Kuma, in an almost merciful act, we'd later learn why, extracts all of Luffy's post-battle pain and fatigue as a huge foamy bubble, urging Zoro to absorb it. Zoro accepts that mortal agony. When Kuma releases the bubble of pain onto Zoro, the screen turns white. Later, Sanji finds him in a field of blood, but miraculously alive. Zoro stands, trembling, and when Sanji asks what the hell happened, Zoro replies with the iconic line, "Nothing happened." That moment is legendary. The audience is left in awe by Zoro's absolute loyalty. And what's most shocking about this situation, he endured unimaginable pain for his captain, and then tried to downplay it so no one would worry. No one anticipated this level of sacrificial intensity. We hoped someone would fight Kuma, or they'd escape, but not Kuma forgiving them after seeing Zoro's resolve. It was a twist that raised Zoro's status to mythical levels for fans, and showed how much the crew would do for one another. Another nice twist of the arc on a smaller scale is discovering Brook's connection to Laboon, the whale from Reverse Mountain. Brook tells us his story with Laboon, and then we realize it was that crew. That loose narrative thread from so many chapters ago was resolved in Thriller Bark, which was a pleasant and emotional surprise. Brook, crying tears of joy knowing Laboon was still alive waiting for him, was a beautiful and unexpected moment for him and for us, masterfully closing a story arc. But focusing on the main shock, the true MVP twist was the scene with Zoro and Kuma. No fan who watched Thriller Bark forgets that nothing happened. The fact that nothing seemed to happen to the rest of them, but we, Sanji, and then Robin knew that Zoro almost died for everyone, makes it even more special. Kuma departs saying, "This was a good crew," acknowledging their value, and we finally breathe again. What began as a comical arc with zombies dancing Michael Jackson's Thriller ends with an act of unexpected solemnity and sacrifice. In short, Thriller Bark made us laugh with its extravagant zombies, surprised us with Kuma's sudden arrival, and shook us with Zoro's loyalty taken to the extreme. It wasn't just a plot twist. The final battle was against Kuma, not against Moria, but a shift in the emotional dynamic of the crew, without Luffy even realizing how deep the bonds of this crew were. Thriller Bark ended with a new musician and a silent heroic act, reminding us that One Piece perfectly blends humor and epicness in the blink of an eye. The Sabaody arc is a whirlwind of events at the threshold of the new world, and culminates with one of the most devastating twists in Straw Hat history. Many new elements are introduced in Sabaody: the celestial dragons, whose abuse Luffy just can't tolerate, the slaves themselves, the 11 supernovas, other incredibly powerful rookie pirates, the presence of Rayleigh, Roger's former right-hand man, a multitude of surprises, but nothing can truly prepare us for the arc's final scene. It's the moment where the entire crew is completely defeated and separated by Bartholomew Kuma. That is the biggest plot twist of the entire arc, to see the heroes lose in such an absolute way. The sequence is distressing. Luffy and the others fight a pacifista, then Kizaru appears, an admiral, another Kuma, who are actually replicant pacifistas, and finally, the real Kuma. One by one, Kuma touches all the Straw Hats and makes them disappear into thin air with his power. First he takes Zoro, then Brook, then Usopp. Luffy is in total shock, unable to protect his friends. The viewer shares in their deep desperation. This is the crew we've watched grow and always triumph together, and suddenly we're watching them just disappear as if they were being slaughtered. Let's recall that at that moment, we don't know where Kuma sends them. It seems he's erasing them from existence. The fall of each member is a punch to the heart. Sanji tries to resist and is teleported. Robin screams and then vanishes. Frankie departs. Chopper in his monster form also disappears. And Luffy frantically tries to attack Kuma to stop him, but he can't even lay a hand on him. Finally, with only Luffy and Nami remaining, Kuma utters some unsettling words. Something about them having a destiny to fulfill, and then poof. Nami disappears as well. Luffy lets out a final cry, "No, stop!" and tries to run, but Kuma tells him, "We will meet again." And with a burst of air, Luffy also disappears, and the screen goes completely blank. In that moment, the audience is left in utter shock. Is this the end? Seeing Luffy defeated, beaten, on the ground, crying and humiliated, screaming in helplessness before being overwhelmed, was heartbreaking. One would never think that One Piece, so focused on friendship and perseverance, would show its protagonist failing so catastrophically. This grim turn subverts all expectations of heroic victory. After Alabasta, Skypiea, Enies lobby, where they always triumph despite everything. In Sabaody, the Straw Hats are hopelessly defeated. I remember that chapter, both in the manga and in the anime, and after watching it, you just feel this emptiness. What's gonna happen now with the story, without the crew together? What's more, the way it happens is surprising. Kuma, until now, had been shown as an enemy in Thriller Bark, but here he seems to be secretly helping the Straw Hats, sending them out of the Navy's reach. Of course, we only understand this much later. At that moment, we only realized he killed them. This twist at Paradise's End, the first half of the Grand Line, was a huge question mark, a very brave narrative device by OVA, separating all the protagonists, which led to the 2-year training saga. Before that catastrophe, Sabaody also gave us other small twists. Luffy punching a celestial dragon in the face, a truly unexpected act. It led to Admiral Kizaru's call, and we knew he shouldn't have done it, but when it happened, it was impossible not to cheer. Silver Rayleigh's arrival, Roger's second in command as an old man chained up at the auction house, was also a huge twist. The Pirate King's right-hand man here, so casually, and he knows Hachi and helps Luffy, so wild to process. Not to mention, we also learned about other supernovas, especially the brief but intriguing interaction with Trafalgar Law and Eustace Kid, forming a temporary alliance in the auction house fight. Sabaody expanded the world and then shattered it before our eyes. But above all, the crew's defeat and separation by Kuma was the most impactful. It was a before and after. As a viewer, you feel Luffy's helplessness, even shouting, "I'm sorry, I was too weak." All this before he vanishes. That feeling was new to the series. It shifted the story's direction to something more mature. The arc ends bitterly and surprisingly, leaving us eager to know how our heroes would reunite and overcome that power gap. Undoubtedly, Sabaody gave us the most devastating twist in the series so far, the complete defeat of the Straw Hats. In the Amazon Lily arc, Luffy literally lands on an island populated only by warrior women, the Kuja, led by Empress Boa Hancock. This arc is shorter and more comedic after Sabaady's drama, but it still has a couple of interesting twists. The first is quite humorous. Luffy is immune to Boa Hancock's powers, whose Mero Mero no Mi turns to stone anyone drawn by her beauty. When Hancock tries to petrify Luffy, he feels no lust, just hunger and childlike curiosity. So the love beam does nothing to him. Hancock's surprised face is priceless. No one understood how a man could resist her charms, and it turned out Luffy is too pure or naive for that. This unexpected twist reverses the role. The mighty Boa, accustomed to bending all to her will, meets a boy immune to her charms. It's her first time. That begins her falling in love with Luffy, which is another comedic twist. Who would have thought the cruel, cold Empress would end up like a lovesick schoolgirl, right? Hancock, going from hating men to sighing over Luffy, was a character turn not many saw coming, and it adds a fun element to the saga. Suddenly, the feared Shichibukai is secretly helping Luffy infiltrate Impel Down just for love. But the biggest twist in Amazon Lily is Luffy's great demonstration of Conqueror's haki. In the arena, fighting Hancock's sisters, Marigold and Sandersonia, Luffy gets furious as they're about to harm Margaret, a young friend they'd turned to stone. In that protective fury, Luffy unconsciously unleashes Conqueror's haki, so potent it knocks out much of the crowd and even pushes back the Snake Sisters. The Kuja are left dumbfounded because Conqueror's haki is extremely rare, possessed by only a few chosen individuals. No one expected Luffy to show that power there. Perhaps we didn't fully grasp the concept as Shanks used it in the first chapter and Rayleigh at the auction house, but here it's clearly attributed to Luffy. Hancock recognizes it and stops the fight at once, curious and impressed. For the Amazons, it was a legend, and Luffy did it by accident. For us viewers, it was an exciting revelation. Luffy has the Conqueror's haki, just like great characters we've seen. This twist isn't so much an emotional shock as it is more hype, but they confirmed that Luffy is destined for the greatness of kings. A more emotional, serious twist would be the tragic story behind Hancock's coldness. The secret behind the marks on her and her sister's backs is revealed, the celestial dragon symbol. They were slaves to the Tenryubito in their childhood, branded until rescued by Fisher Tiger. That's why they hated men and hid the mark, claiming it was the curse for killing a Gorgon. Discovering this completely changes the perception of Hancock, from an arrogant tyrant to a victim with deep trauma hidden behind a facade, explaining her resentment towards the world government. This background adds a lot of empathy for Hancock in one fell swoop, a twist in our understanding of the character. To sum up, Amazon Lily first surprised us with humor, Luffy immune to Hancock's charm, and Hancock falling in love. And then with awe, Luffy demonstrating Conqueror's haki for the first time. Also, it made us see Boa Hancock in a totally different light after learning her past. It's not an arc of great battles or intrigues, but of unexpected transitions and character developments. Above all, confirming that Luffy possesses the rare Conqueror's haki, a detail we viewers sensed would be crucial for the future. And of course, it leaves us with a new, unexpected ally, Hancock, the pirate empress in love, willing to do anything to help Luffy. This arc is a short roller coaster. From Luffy fighting warrior women, to Luffy having a super powerful enamored fan, and from evil Hancock to Hancock with a tragic past. As always, One Piece adds layers where it seemed there would only be comedy or simple action, and that keeps us hooked. The Impel Down arc is a journey through prison hell, where Luffy attempts to rescue Ace before his execution. Along the way, we find a parade of reappearances and unexpected alliances that are the saga's big twist. Luffy joins forces with old enemies to achieve his goal. Who would have imagined we'd see Luffy side by side with Buggy the Clown, Mr. 3, or even Crocodile? It's unthinkable at the start of the series. However, the biggest plot twist is seeing old villains become allies out of convenience, and some out of genuine friendship, especially given this extreme situation. From prison level 1, we're met with a surprise. Baggy's imprisoned there, and he runs into Luffy. They team up to survive and make their way through, though Baggy mostly drags Luffy into his messes for his own gain. After the hidden, coveted gems, seeing Baggy, a comedic villain from East Blue, interacting with Luffy again on this adventure, even half helping him, is an unexpected delight. Then Mr. 3 appears on lower levels and also joins the combo. That trio of Luffy, Buggy, and Mr. 3 fighting the demon guards together was a twist we didn't expect, but the revelations keep coming, as on level 5, Luffy meets Mr. 2, Bon Clay, the Okama ex-agent of Baroque Works. And Bon Clay steals the show. Bon Clay's shift from eccentric foe to Luffy's most loyal friend is one of the most emotional turns. In Impel Down, Bon Clay suddenly risks all for Luffy, pretending to be Zoro and Sanji to distract, fighting everyone to protect him, and above all, at the arc's end, Shay sacrifices himself, staying behind so Luffy and the others can escape. Bon Clay impersonating Magellan in the control room to open the door and say goodbye with that change of heart, knowing he'd probably die there, is a tearful moment. Who would have thought in Alabasta that mister? 2, a cross-dresser and a cheat would end up being such a lovable hero? His redemption and sacrifice were a precious twist of fate that few expected at the start of Impel Down. Also, Emporio Ivankov, the Okama Queen and a Revolutionary Army member, appears, emerging from nowhere on secret level 5.5 and helping Luffy. Another moment I really like is when Ivankov realizes Luffy is Dragon's son, and of course Crocodile. Luffy, desperate for extreme strength, ends up freeing his archenemy Crocodile from his cell on level 6 in exchange for help. No one ever imagined seeing Crocodile fighting on the same side as Luffy so soon, and there he is with Jinbe, another unexpected ally, though Jinbe is more clearly presented as honorable, and everyone's escaping with the crew. Seeing Crocodile dispatching Marines to clear the way, then flying towards Marineford alongside Luffy was truly great. A villain from the previous arc, now a temporary ally with a shared goal of escape and chaos, was incredible. Then Blackbeard also appears in Impel Down, another huge twist. Teach sneaks in to recruit the worst prisoners for his crew. His clash with Luffy was tense and unexpected. Blackbeard indirectly caused Ace's capture, and seeing Luffy try to hit him then is electrifying. One didn't expect Luffy's rematch against Blackbeard so soon. Thanks to Jinbe and Shiryu's intervention, things didn't escalate. That reminded us Teach still pulls strings in the background, adding another layer to the conflict. We can't forget another tragic twist. Luffy doesn't achieve his goal in Impel Down, he fails. By level 6, Ace has already been moved to Marineford. It's very anticlimactic in a good way. We perhaps expected Luffy to rescue Ace right there, but no. Ace gets away, and the Impel Down adventure becomes a let's go to plan B, sneaking into the war. This anti-twist of not saving him yet intensifies the epic because the mission continues towards Marineford. In short, Impel Down surprised us by turning some enemies into adventure companions. The viewer enjoys watching Luffy form an unlikely team with people like Buggy and Crocodile, and is deeply moved by Bon Clay's unexpected loyalty. After Sabaody, we saw Luffy lose everything. In Impel Down, he regained allies where he least expected them. It was a failed rescue arc, but we got endearing characters back, and understood that in extreme situations, strange alliances are formed. One message is Luffy inspires camaraderie, even in the most unexpected hearts, like Bon Clay or even Crocodile. The great Impel Down escape is remembered for that. The unlikely allies Luffy gathered, and the sacrifice of a friend who was once his foe. A true twist on the typical all villains are evil formula. Here, some villains can turn into lifelong friends. The Marineford arc, also known as the Summit War, is one of One Piece's most impactful, packed with dramatic twists. In this pitched battle between Whitebeard's pirates and the Marine forces, with the Shichibukai, viewers witness moments that will change the series' world forever. The biggest plot twist of Marineford, and probably of the entire series up to this point, is the death of Portgas D, Ace, Luffy's brother, just as he seemed to have been saved. It was a devastating and unexpected blow. Let's recap how we got there. Luffy, after traversing Impel Down and countless struggles, reaches Marineford to save Ace from execution. The war is chaotic and full of minor twists. Scourge stabbing Whitebeard due to Akainu's deception, Luffy stopping an execution with Haki, the betrayal of some Marines, the public reveal that Ace is Gold and Roger's son, which is a major twist in itself, and the whole world learns of it. But the climactic moments come chained together, when it seems all is lost thanks to the combined alliance of many, Ivankov, Inazuma, Mr. 3, even Kobe and the pirates. Luffy reaches the execution platform with an improvised key from Mr. 3. Luffy finally frees Ace. He did it. At that moment, we all cheered with joy. It was unexpected, the situation was extremely complicated, yet he pulled it off. That Luffy fights back to back, making his way through the Marines. And everyone thought, yes, victory, Ace will be saved. All this sacrifice was worth it. And then the worst possible twist happens. Admiral Akainu provokes Ace by insulting Whitebeard, and Ace, proud, stops to confront him. Akainu launches a magma punch towards Luffy, and Ace, in a heroic act, steps in to protect his brother. The punch goes right through Ace's torso. Suddenly, the music completely stops. Ace is left mortally wounded with a gaping hole in his chest. That moment leaves us frozen. It can't be, after all we did to free him. Ace is dying now. Ace dies in Luffy's arms with a smile, thanking them for loving him. For Luffy, it's traumatic. For us, it's an almost unthinkable event in a shonen like this, where almost no one close to the protagonist had died in the present. Seeing Ace perish, the fire of his life extinguishing, was a major shock. That is the most tragic twist in One Piece to date. The main goal of the entire arc, saving Ace, fails at the last moment. Luffy is catatonic from the pain. We viewers were left in silence, processing that Oda really dared to kill Ace after the entire saga focused on saving him. Besides this, Marineford has other huge twists. Whitebeard dies standing, shortly after riddled by betrayals and wounds. Although that was more predictable seeing him so badly injured, it still hurt. But Ace's death was much more surprising because it was so abrupt. Blackbeard showed his master plan. He appears, and after killing Whitebeard, steals the power of his devil fruit, obtaining the Gura Gura no Mi. What? Seeing Teach with the powers of darkness and earthquake was terrifying and unexpected. We didn't know it was possible to steal abilities like that, much less have 2 devil fruits at once. This twist establishes Blackbeard as an even more dangerous villain than he was. Also, Shanks' appearance at the end to stop the war was a welcome twist. When everything spirals out of control with Teach unleashed, boom! Shanks arrives, picking up Luffy's hat and declaring the war was over here. His mere presence brings peace. We didn't expect to see him intervene so directly in the plot so soon. It was so epic. Another element would be Kobe facing the Marines for a moment, begging for a ceasefire. It failed, but surprise, Akainu Kashi executes him for insubordination, and he's saved by none other than Shanks. Such details abound. Returning to Ace, his death was not just a plot twist, but an emotional one. One Piece showed that in the new era, Luffy's post-Grand Line, the stakes would be much higher and the loss is real. Many people thought Luffy would make it in time and save Ace because the hero usually succeeds. But it wasn't so, which taught us to expect the unexpected from Oda-sensei. This event shapes the protagonist's future. Luffy is traumatized and trains. His perspective on things changes. It was a turning point for the series. In conclusion, Marineford left us speechless with Ace's death, something few saw coming, and with the succession of twists on the battlefield, lineage revelations, deaths of legendary characters, Ace, Whitebeard, Blackbeard's betrayal and rise to power, and Shanks' unexpected diplomatic intervention. If Sabaody showed us defeat, Marineford showed us the ultimate sacrifice. It was an arc of dramatic twists, one after another, culminating in tragedy and an era's end. Whitebeard's era ended, the Yonko will change. The world was shaken. Undoubtedly, Ace's loss remains the most painful and surprising twist that One Piece fans will never forget. The brief post-war arc serves as an emotional epilogue after Marineford's tragedy and a prelude to the great time skip. Though calmer in action, it holds significant twists centered on Luffy and the crew's future. The first is very emotional. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo's flashback, triggered by Luffy's catatonic pain after Ace's death. Jinbe tries to calm him, but Luffy breaks down, admitting he has nothing, having lost Ace. Then he recalls his childhood. Surprisingly, Sabo's existence is revealed, Luffy and Ace's third sworn brother. No one expected at this point to introduce another brother for Luffy. We know their childhood, their bond, and Sabo's tragic fate, who apparently dies at a celestial dragon's hands when he sets sail. This flashback is a narrative twist. Suddenly, Luffy's family is retroactively expanded, adding even more depth to Ace's promise not to die, a promise he couldn't keep, and to Luffy's emotional wound. Sabo's appearance and presumed death were surprising, planting a seed for later. Manga readers were left wondering, did he really die? But among roses, we'd know he didn't. At the time, it helps Luffy process Ace's loss, remembering he still has more living Nakama who need him. The other big twist, this time it's hopeful, is Luffy's decision to train 2 years and the clever secret message his crewmates send. Until now, the show was always, keep moving forward non-stop. After Marineford, Rayleigh shows Luffy that as he is, entering the new world would be foolish. They need to be stronger. Luffy takes the drastic step of postponing the reunion with his crew, who had already been trying for weeks to meet in Sabaody. Instead, he trains under Rayleigh on Rusakaina Island. To communicate this without alerting the world, Luffy briefly returns to Marineford, now empty after the war, and performs a symbolic act. He rings the Og's bell, the sacred bell, 16 times, and shows a coded message on his arm to his Nakama. 3 Ds, 2 Is. 3 days, crossed out, and 2 years. This was a brilliant and unexpected plan. The Marines and the press thought Luffy was declaring war again by ringing Whitebeard's funeral bell 16 times. But his friends understood, don't return in 3 days, but in 2 years, when we're stronger. The time skip was planned with a clever twist. For the reader or viewer, this was a moderate shock because it meant One Piece would have a time jump. Many shonen have done a time skip, but we didn't know if Oda would, and he implemented it brilliantly into the story. It's a great poetic twist. Also, tricking the whole world with the coded message trick made us smile. Our heroes take a strategic break, something unexpected from a show that always rushed into adventure. Besides, the world changes. After the war, the news that Shanks stopped the conflict and Whitebeard died creates a power vacuum, though most of the change is seen later. For example, the dissolution of the Okage and Warlords, decided at the Reverie and afterward, and the pirates of the New World are stirred up, the so-called New Era. This is a shift in the general status quo. In short, the post-Marineford arc surprised us with Sabo's retroactive inclusion in Luffy's childhood, adding a new brother who'd later be important, and with the unprecedented decision to separate the crew for 2 years to train. This hiatus in the main adventure was a structural, bold, and necessary turn. We expected it after seeing the defeat, but we didn't know how they'd implement it. Luffy's newspaper message was brilliant and unexpected, a satisfying end to the saga, Luffy turning pain to motivation, and us intrigued by their 2-year return. Without major battles, this arc still marked us with emotional twists. The past, with Ace and Sabo, and strategic ones, the time skip, preparing the new world with higher stakes. The Sabaody return arc is short, but very rewarding, as we see the crew reunite after 2 years of training. Here the twist isn't dramatic, but rather surprising and fun to see how much the Straw Hats have grown, and how they managed to unmask a group of imposters. This short arc presents the comical fake Straw Hats. Opportunistic pirates in Sabaody impersonate Luffy's crew to recruit rookies. They look similar but were idiots. Who would have thought Luffy's return would bring imitators? Viewers laugh watching these fakes, and we're surprised when the real crew members slowly arrive and ridicule them without the imposters even noticing. For example, fake Luffy punches the real one, thinking he's very strong, but the real Luffy doesn't even flinch. Zoro and Sanji defeat a pacifista with just one attack each, when before, the entire crew together struggled to beat one. This is the great, brilliant twist of this arc, the abysmal demonstration of the protagonist's power increase. Let's remember the Sabaody trauma the first time. A single pacifista almost killed them, forcing them to flee. Kizaru toyed with them, Kuma scattered them. Now they're back, and boom, Luffy takes down pirates with just one glance of his conqueror's haki. Zoro and Sanji making mincemeat of the pacifista, Luffy knocking out the pacifista with a single jet pistol, exactly where 2 years prior they almost all died fighting just one. What a truly satisfying moment. It was a pretty expected turn, but equally thrilling to see their training bore spectacular fruit. The Marines present don't understand a thing. Has that Mugiwara Luffy always been this strong? No, my friends, he has just evolved. As a spectator, it's chilling to see the contrast. Where they once fled, now they don't even flinch. Another nice twist is how they play with the confusing situation. The Navy attacks the fake Straw Hats, believing they are the real wanted ones, and arrests that bunch of imposters. Meanwhile, the real ones are quietly meeting on the Thousand Sunny. This was unexpected and funny. The Straw Hats navigated the archipelago, practically avoiding the large marine mobilization waiting for them because they weren't recognized. Only Sentomaru and some pacifistas realized the truth at the last moment, but it was already too late. They saw them defeat the pacifistas and escape into the sea under the coating towards Fishman Island. This clean escape is a twist. After all that drama and hardship, their return was surprisingly easy. They show their power and leave, leaving everyone amazed. Plus, we see new looks and refined personalities. Frankie, the flamboyant half-cyborg, Robin with her new look, minor but interesting changes. Usopp is muscular and brave now, Nami has long hair. It really gives the feeling of, wow, how they've changed. In conclusion, the return to Sabaody was incredible. The big twist was seeing our heroes go from being prey to predators, all on the same stage. As a viewer, it was unexpected how quickly they resolved situations that were previously impossible, and at the same time comforting. He left us super hyped. If a pacifista was almost invincible, and now they're junk, what kind of foes await in the new world? Will some match or surpass this new level? We are preparing for new twists and challenges, knowing that the Straw Hats have returned even stronger and are ready to surprise the world and us all once again. The Fishman Island arc is the crew's first big adventure in the new world. Well, technically underwater, before emerging to the new world's surface. And it's packed with historical revelations and important lore twists, more than battle surprises, since the enemies, Hody Jones's new Fishman pirates, proved to be no match for the Straw Hats. The biggest plot twist of this arc is, without a doubt, a revelation about the ancient ancestral weapons and the mermaid princess herself. It turns out that Shirahoshi is Poseidon, an ancestral weapon capable of controlling the Sea Kings. This was truly a bombshell. Throughout the entire arc, we see Shirahoshi as a naive crybaby princess, but with a good heart. In the end, Neptune reveals the truth to Robin and to us. Shirahoshi not only talks to them, she is the current incarnation of the ancient weapon Poseidon, mentioned in Skypiea. This unexpected connection drove us crazy. One of the ancient weapons with the power to destroy the world is a sweet teenage mermaid that Luffy's been protecting. Who would have thought? Plus, this ties up loose ends with the story. In Skypiea, the Shandora Bell's poneglyph had information on Poseidon, and Roger left a message. Now we know that weapon is a living thing and it's here. This lore twist expands the future importance of Fishman Island and Shirahoshi in the global plot. Another impactful twist is more thematic. The true motive of Hody Jones and his crew is revealed. It was assumed they hated humans for injustices suffered, but it turns out Hody Jones and his followers were never directly harmed by humans. Their hate is inherited. They hate for ideology, without personal reasons. This twist shatters your expectations of a villain. Usually there are traumas behind them, but not here. Hody is a product of the vicious cycle of hatred, showing the issue of racism from a different perspective. It was unexpected when he confessed, "I don't have a great tragic past. I simply hate, because I do. Because I was born into this hatred." This makes you see Hody Jones as more of a symbol than an enemy to empathize with. This arc deals with racial tensions between humans and the Gyojin, and the twist is that the villains don't have any objective reason, which makes them empty and even sadder. In terms of action, a surprising moment was Madame Charlie's prophecy. This fortune-telling mermaid predicts that Luffy will completely destroy Fishman Island. This left us wondering throughout the entire arc, Luffy is going to do what? Will it be from fighting by accident? At the arc's end, Luffy does cause damage, partially destroying Noah to prevent its fall on the island, but the island isn't destroyed. That prophecy remains pending for the future perhaps, which is chilling. At the time, it's a disturbing prophetic twist. Also unexpected was the Sea King's own intervention. When Luffy is trying to destroy the enormous Noah ship so it doesn't crush the island, suddenly, Shirahoshi, desperate, unknowingly, summons the Sea Kings, and they are the ones who stop the ship and save the island. Seeing those giant monsters telepathically speaking to each other, saying, "The princess has called us, let's go," confirms to everyone that Shirahoshi has that special gift. And for Luffy and his crew, it was a huge shock to see the Sea Kings appear to help. At the arc's end, there's a political twist. Luffy, by eating all the island's sweets, a tribute to Big Mom, Fishman Island's Yonko, essentially declares war on her. Luffy speaks with Big Mom via Denden Mushi, telling her that once he reaches the New World, he'll defeat her and claim the island as his territory. But what is Luffy doing? Is he challenging an emperor just like that? Yes, that's our Luffy. That challenge was very surprising. We just got to the New World and Luffy's already facing Big Mom, which would then lead to the Whole Cake arc. A very bold and unexpected move on his part, though consistent with his character. Finally, the conclusion, with Jinbe invited to join the crew and him saying he had pending matters, was a pleasant twist. Since Impel down and Marineford, Jinbe earned everyone's respect, and seeing Luffy ask him to be a nakama was satisfying. It wasn't a huge surprise as it was expected, but Jinbe's answer, saying yes, but later, was curious, leaving us in suspense. In summary, Fishman Island delivered plot twists focused on its deep lore, the revelation of Shirahoshi as an ancient weapon, the unexpected shallowness of Hody's hatred, the prophecy concerning Luffy, and the Sea King's sudden arrival obeying the princess. Also, he turned a likely alliance with Big Mom over sweets into enmity with a Yonko due to Luffy's impulsive words. That arc closed many plot lines. The late Queen Odahime's dream of peaceful coexistence lives on. But above all, discovering that shy Shirahoshi is Poseidon was the biggest plot twist. No one expected a great ancient weapon to be a character we'd seen cry and play with Luffy. This linked the saga's arc to the Poneglyphs and Joy Boy, adding great significance. Fishman Island reminded us that One Piece blends action with far-reaching historical revelations, and that a seemingly defenseless character can hide the world's most unexpected power. The Punk Hazard arc kicks off the Dressrosa saga, bringing its own share of interesting twists, mainly in alliances and internal betrayals. The biggest plot twist of Punk Hazard is the unusual transformation of Luffy and Trafalgar Law's alliance to overthrow one of the four emperors, Kaido. Who would have imagined Luffy would formally team up with a rival ex-supernova? Law always seemed mysterious and calculating. When he reappears in Punk Hazard as a Shichibukai, you'd think he's just another foe. Surprisingly, Law proposes a bold plan to Luffy: unite forces to take down Kaido. The first step, destroy the Smile Factory, the artificial fruits, and capture Caesar Clown, Doflamingo's allied scientist. This alliance shift changes the game. Until now, Luffy hadn't made such strategic pacts, but here, intrigued and also because he liked Law, he accepts. The viewers got excited because seeing two supernovas cooperating was like, wow. This unexpected team kicks off the entire saga, and it's great how Oda makes two such distinct characters work together. Law with his cold brain and Luffy with his heart and brute strength complement each other strangely, but it was a twist to see Luffy so independently say, okay, alright, let's form an alliance. And saying it cheerfully without much thought, and Law adapting to Luffy's chaos. Another surprising twist in Punk Hazard is the revelation of the traitor in G5, Virgo, General, Vice Admiral, and respected leader at the G5 base. He turns out to be a lifelong infiltrator serving Doflamingo, and we find this out in full action when Smoker and Tashigi realize Virgo sabotaged the comms and was behind all the shady stuff. Virgo suddenly turns from a marine ally into a brutal enemy, mercilessly kicking Smoker and the G5 guys. It was shocking for the characters, as Smoker was furious for trusting him, and for us too, because Virgo seemed so genial with food on his face and his calm demeanor. This reinforces the idea, don't trust anyone blindly, a trend we saw in Water 7 with CP9. There's also Caesar Clown's double cross, which catches us by surprise. Caesar, the mad scientist responsible for poisonous gas and child experimentation, invites the crew to his lab, pretending to be friendly with Nami, Sanji, Chopper, and Frankie, who are in swapped bodies due to Law's powers. Another very comical moment throughout the arc, suddenly he traps them with the gas. It's true he wasn't a mega hero since we knew he was a villain, but Caesar's cruelty exceeded our expectations. Then Luffy and Law made him bite the dust, obviously. A funny and shocking moment is seeing Kinemon, the samurai from Wano, first as a severed torso that was talking, and then seeing him fully reassembled. It was unexpected to find a samurai on that island, and such an extravagant one, as he has the power of the Fuku Fuku no Mi, a fruit that lets him create clothes. And Kinemon's introduction to Momonosuke, his supposed son, starts to unravel Wano's plot much earlier, without us knowing its full scope. Perhaps one of the most applauded twists is the return of Aokiji, of Kuzan, as a free agent. He appears to save Smoker from Doflamingo's finishing blow. Yes, Doflamingo himself arrives at Punk Hazard to eliminate all loose ends. When he's about to finish off Smoker, boom, Aokiji enters, freezing him. Daffy decides to retreat instead of fighting an ex-admiral. This intervention was surprising, giving us an idea. Kuzan left the Marines, but he's still around, perhaps with his own objectives. Ally? Neutral? It was unclear, but it was great to see him again and save Smoker. So, Aokiji saving Smoker from Doflamingo, a character crossover we didn't expect. Speaking of Doflamingo, in the end, there's a political twist thanks to Law. Caesar, held hostage, forced Doflamingo into the unthinkable, renouncing his Shichibukai title and supposedly his crown as Dressrosa's king. Everyone in the world is shocked when the news breaks. Joker Doflamingo gives up his Shichibukai status and leaves the throne. It was partly false, a government hoax for a day, but we believed it was real then, and the reaction was wild. Smoker knew it was Law's work, and this twist took us right to Dressrosa wanting to know more. In Punk Hazard, something almost tender was also the arc's ending. The children who had been kidnapped by Caesar, suffering from drug withdrawal, were finally handed over to the G5 Marines so they could be cured, and Tashigi was busy earning their trust. The G5 Roughnecks, tough but kind-hearted, were crying as they said goodbye, having lived so much together. It's a small twist to see those brutal Marines showing their sentimental side. In summary, Punk Hazard surprises us with Luffy and Law's alliance, which would change the adventure's course with twists like Virgo's betrayal, Aokiji's brief interference, and the start of Doflamingo's empire's collapse. It also plants seeds. The mystery of Momonosuke, the mention of Kaido as a target, the first direct plan against a Yonko that was laid out by Law and Luffy. It was a transitional arc, but with enormous repercussions. The most unexpected thing was seeing Luffy involved in a global overthrow plan orchestrated by Law, because Luffy usually doesn't plan so far ahead. He accepts because his instinct tells him it's thrilling. This dynamic gave us fresh energy and prepared us. Huge downfalls are coming. So from Punk Hazard, One Piece enters a phase of pirate alliances and wars against emperors, a new and thrilling territory born from this team-up twist between old rivals. The Dressrosa arc is incredibly rich in plot twists and significant moments, as the plot to overthrow Doflamingo is intricate, brimming with hidden identities and long-awaited returns. There are two enormous plot twists that stand out. The first one is of an emotional and surprising character for the fans. Sabo, Luffy's supposedly dead brother, reappears alive and becomes the new user of Ace's Mera Mera Devil Fruit. This particular moment was truly euphoric. At the Kurita Coliseum, Luffy participates while disguised as Lucci in order to win Ace's fruit. And just when it seems he can't continue, as he's pulled from the arena to rescue Violet, a mysterious competitor, also named Lucci, takes his place. Later, it's revealed that it's Sabo, who didn't die that day as a child. When Sabo takes off his helmet and Luffy recognizes him, crying with joy, the audience went wild too. It was a reunion no one imagined would happen so soon, or in this way. Sabo eats Ace's fruit before a stunned Burgess, ensuring Ace's legacy now lives in him. This plot twist fulfills the post-war flashbacks promise. Sabo was alive with the revolutionaries, and his timely arrival in Dressrosa was truly incredible. For Luffy, it's an enormous relief to have another brother back. For us, it's a huge satisfaction to see Sabo so powerful, as he's the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, and we even get to see him in action. Perhaps it's Dressrosa's biggest fan service plot twist, because Sabo was beloved since his late introduction, and bringing him into the main story like that was magnificent. The second big twist of Dressrosa is the internal revelation. The toy soldier who accompanied Frankie and Usopp is actually Kairos, the legendary gladiator and Rebecca's father. This bond was suspected by very attentive readers, but the way it is presented is fantastic. During the Great Battle, Sugar, the girl with the hobby fruit, is defeated thanks to Usopp in a comical scene where Usopp scares her so much that she faints. When her curse breaks, all the toys of Dressrosa turn back into humans and regain their identity before the citizens. At that instant, Kairos, having regained his human form, cuts off Doflamingo's head. Or so we believe for a second. It turns out to be a string clone of Doflamingo, but the image is shocking. Doflamingo decapitated. Seriously? For an instant, one believes it. But no, it was just a decoy. Still, Kyros's revelation, with everyone remembering the hero of the arena, Scarlet's husband, Rebecca's father, shocks all of Dressrosa. The twist here is double. We discover the toy's identity, confirming the sad story that was told to us in fragments, that he was Rebecca's forgotten father, and at the same time, we expose Doflamingo's massive scam to the entire country, whose family and friends had been turned into toys that no one could remember. It's a liberating moment. Sugar's curse is broken, and the truth is revealed. This flips the script as Dressrosa's people realize Doflamingo manipulated them cruelly. Speaking of Doflamingo, another surprise was his resignation as king, and Shichibukai was a complete sham. That deception, a result of his connections with the government and CP0, we all fell for too. Dressrosa begins with the news that he'll remain king in Shichibukai, as he retracted his resignation due to a shady deal. A twist from the previous Punk Hazard arc clarified Doflamingo still had immunity, adding immense difficulty. Further twists, Law's personal vendetta against Doflamingo was heartfelt, not merely tactical. And we learned something important about Doflamingo, as he's not an active celestial dragon. Though he was one in his youth, he lost that status, yet he manipulated the government with a lie for his own ends. The story of how he ascended to Dressrosa's throne, usurping King Riku, manipulating the people with sugar and his own performance, is revealed to the citizens, and it's another shock for them. We can't forget a huge combat twist. Luffy reveals his fourth gear, Bondman. In the final battle against Doflamingo, it wasn't a narrative plot twist, but for the audience, witnessing a new gear with Luffy becoming all bouncy and covered in haki, flying like a human rocket, was truly impressive. Doflamingo, who seemed untouchable, suddenly takes a beating. It was satisfying and unexpected to see Luffy literally bounce attacks and overpower Doflamingo. This, plus Law's key power contribution, like the internal wound he gave Doflamingo earlier, hastened the Shichibukai's defeat. Also, a fun mini twist is that the hero who defeats Sugar twice is Usopp in the most comical way possible. First with his terrifying face that knocks her out, and then when Sugar regains consciousness to turn Luffy into a toy, Usopp awakens his haki, and Usopp, almost unconscious, sees Luffy and Law in danger, and fires a super long blind shot that gives Sugar an enormous fright. And this scene of God Usopp saving the day and all the idiots adoring him was a humorous twist that elevated Usopp to the level of a local living legend. No one saw it coming that Usopp would have a 5-star bounty, that Doflamingo himself put a price on his head, nor that he would be called God Usopp for defeating Sugar. This arc is very good for Usopp and funny twists. And of course, Dressrosa concludes with Doflamingo's downfall. This in itself is not a very big twist, but the global repercussion is Doflamingo, a world king in Shichibukai, is defeated and captured. This causes an earthquake in the balance of power. For example, the news brings about the rise of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, the grateful gladiators and pirates, Cavendish, Bartolomeo, Hapo, the Hapo Navy's Sai, Ideo, or Lumbus, voluntarily unite under Luffy's flag. Luffy wasn't keen on formally leading anyone else, but they accept his impromptu toast. This is a turn to the future. Luffy now has 7 subordinate crews. Not bad for someone who wasn't even looking. One wonders how this detail will play out later. Meanwhile, the Marines and CP0 take Doflamingo, and the info on Mary Jawazi's secrets he knew becomes dangerous. The mystery of Mary Jawazi's national treasure known to Doflamingo sparked theories. Fujitora makes his stand for blind justice, publicly apologizes to King Riku, forcing the world government to admit the truth. An admiral acting against orders to cover up. Ultimately, the Dressrosa arc is full of twists. Saibo returns and takes Ace's torch. Kiros regains his humanity, and people learn the truth of Doflamingo's rule. Usopp unexpectedly becomes a god, and the global power landscape changes with the fall of a key player like the Joker, Doflamingo. Then we also have Doflamingo chained with Kairoseki, defeated, a sight to behold, and Yonko Kaido learning of the destroyed factory. Then Kaido appears and beats up Kid. But if we must choose the most exciting, it's probably Saibo's return, who takes the prize for shock and happy tears. It was a fantastic surprise years after his death to see him alive, in action, wielding his deceased brother's powers. A truly unexpected, huge moment. Many call it one of the series' best emotional twists. Dressrosa taught us that One Piece can weave complex sagas where pieces fall into place with gratifying twists. Old characters return, secrets are revealed, and the world is never the same again. The Zoo arc is relatively brief but fundamental for the final saga, packed with crucial information and a double twist of trust and awe. Zoo's biggest plot twist occurs when Samurai Kinemon and Kanjuro finally reach Zoo Island atop the elephant Zunesha. It's revealed that far from conflict, Zoo's minks not only know Samurai Raizo, but have been hiding and protecting him this entire time, risking their own lives. This moment was incredibly emotional and unexpected. For almost the entire arc, we were led to believe the minks would probably hate Wano's samurai. Even Arashi and Nekomamushi, the day and night dukes, told Luffy not to bring samurai. This built up tension. People thought when they find out Kinemon and the others are from Wano, there'll be a fight. But no, when Kinemon finally introduces himself to the mink leaders, all the minks kneel, crying with joy, shouting, "Raizo is safe." The minks endured all the brutal torture from Jack, Kaido's commander, who gassed and mutilated them, but they never betrayed their friend, and Raizo was hidden on the island. That twist of loyalty gave us goosebumps. It turned out the Mink and Kozuki, Wano's clan, were allies for centuries, almost family. That's why they protect Raizo, a Wano ninja, with their lives. It was super unexpected and moving to see there was no resentment, but shared love and honor. The protagonists themselves, Kinemon and the rest, are in shock that the Mink, whom they didn't even know, had suffered so much to protect Raizo. When they show him, a burly, cartoonish ninja, the whole crew goes wild because he's a real ninja. Luffy and Chopper get excited like kids, asking him to do ninjutsu. That scene balances tension with humor, but the serious background is the deep Mink-Samurai alliance. Also in Zoo, there's a spectacular lore action twist. Zunesha, the millennial elephant, the living island, speaks, and only Momonosuke can give him orders. Though Luffy also hears him, revealing that Momo has a power similar to the voice of all things, similar to Luffy's and Roger's. Zunesha was being attacked by Jack, who survived the fight with the minks and returned. When Momo, on Luffy and company's advice, ordered him to attack, Zunesha with a single tail swing sank Jack's ships, finishing him off for now. What an epic and unexpected scene. A huge elephant acting on the command of the Kozuki heir child. It left us speechless. Jack, a very tough villain at that time who was hard to catch, is knocked down like a fly. We also wonder, what is Zunesha truly? An ancient punishment is hinted to walk forever, a mystical twist that raises many, many questions. Zoo also fully launches us into the next saga of the Road Poneglyph information. We're also shown one of the 4 red stones that point to Laugh Tale, the Road Poneglyphs, and learning that is a global plot twist. Now we have clear instructions to get to One Piece and gather the 4 Road Poneglyphs. We know Kaido and Big Mom have 2 of those poneglyphs, which connects our sagas. Facing Yonkos isn't just personal, it's necessary to reach the final island. Additionally, the missions are divided. Luffy will go rescue Sanji from Big Mom, while Law, Kinemon, and the rest prepare Wano for the rebellion against Kaido. This crew split is unusual, but understandable given the scale. Finally, Zoo adds an exciting final cameo. Marco the Phoenix is alive and hidden somewhere. Nekomamushi goes to find him for the war against Kaido. It's not a huge twist, we assumed he survived Marineford, but it's great they're considering him as an ally. Zoo gave us twists emphasizing loyalty and historical intrigue. The truth about Raizo and the Mink's loyalty, Zunesha's voice obeying Momonosuke's orders and annihilating Jack, and the revelation of the direct path to Laugh Tale. It was a short act with almost no fighting, just the devastation from the incident and Zunesha's attack, but we were still left speechless several times by the information and emotional moments. After Zoo, we were all excited and the war in Wano was coming. The bonds of the Mink-Pirate-Samurai alliance were forged, giving Luffy his first small formal alliance of 3 groups. This arc proved that One Piece not only surprises with battles, but also with legendary acts of friendship and past secrets that reshape the adventure. The Whole Cake Island arc is a feast of deception, family revelations, and a frantic escape climax where a character's twist particularly stands out. Pudding, Sanji's sweet, shy fiance, turns out to have a hidden evil side. Then unexpectedly, a divided heart leads her to help the Straw Hats. Charlotte Pudding's introduction deceives us all. At first, she seems like an ally. Big Mom's beautiful daughter wants to help Sanji escape his arranged marriage. We pity her because she suffers from the Yerma gangsters. But plot twist, Pudding was actually a manipulative actress. Privately, she cruelly mocks Sanji, revealing her third eye and confessing she plans to murder him at the wedding by Big Mom's command. That scene where Pudding changes from a lamb-like face to a psychopath, pointing a gun at Reiju, Sanji's sister, and mocking how Sanji looked at her lovingly, was a shock. No one saw it coming that this allied girl was actually a twisted villain. Even her voice changes and she shows her hidden eye, which she secretly feels ashamed of. That wicked twist stunned us and devastated Sanji when he heard it behind the wall in the rain, a tragic scene. Pudding went from damsel in distress to ruthless plotter in one chapter. But wait, Pudding's roller coaster isn't over. Later, during Big Mom's chaotic wedding assassination attempt, she's further bewildered when he praises her third eye, calling it beautiful. Pudding's true feelings then emerge. She genuinely starts to fall for Sanji. The malevolent, laughing villainess blushes and stutters. Unable to shoot him, she ends up aiding their great escape. She works with Chiffon and Beige to bake the new wedding cake to calm Big Mom. Then, during their final escape, she wipes Sanji's memory of her kiss. Another bittersweet surprise. Her redemption comes at the cost of Sanji not remembering her in that tender moment. Pudding is a character with a double plot twist. First, she reveals her dark, unexpected side, then her buried good side. She kept us guessing until the very end if she would be redeemed. By the end of Whole Cake, she went from hated to understood. She was a victim of her mother's hatred for her eye, and Sanji freed her from that with a compliment. An unusual romantic twist for One Piece. Another big twist in Whole Cake is Big Mom's origin, the mystery of Mother Caramel and her eaten orphans. Mid-battle, we get a flashback of young Lin Lin. We discover she was a giant, innocent girl with immense strength adopted by Mother Caramel. It seemed like a tender story of redemption, until her 6th birthday, Lin Lin enters an eating trance. Caramel and all the children mysteriously disappear, and it's strongly implied that Lin Lin ate them alive unknowingly. That Big Mom as a child committed that involuntary cannibalism? That twist is sinister. Also, Caramel turned out to be a child trafficker selling them to the government. Another plot twist, the nun was evil, and in the end, Lin Lin unknowingly eats her maternal figure and inherits her fruit. That revelation was quite dark and explains why Big Mom is so disturbed. Few expected that kind of past. In Whole Cake, there are also betrayals and unexpected alliances. Capone Beg, a mafia supernova, turns out to be Luffy's temporary ally. They plan to kill Big Mom together. I never imagined Luffy cooperating with a gangster like Beige, but he does it from necessity. Beiji's castle body becomes crucial for the escape. The twist of a bloodthirsty pirate like Beige teaming up with the Straw Hats out of convenience was quite entertaining. The Jerma 66 also surprised us. Though they started as despicable types abusing Sanji at the wedding, they soon discovered Big Mom planned to massacre them too. They ended up fighting alongside Sanji and Luffy. Seeing Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, and Reiju in their raid suits tearing through Big Mom's minions was awesome. A shift in the dynamic. They don't exactly turn into monkeys, but they save Sanji and acknowledge his worth. Somehow George, the father, cries when Sanji saves him, and his pride breaks for a moment. No one expected Germa to end up helping with the escape. And let's talk about the arc's end, the wild escape, and the Tamata Bako's intervention, the famous Tamate box from Fishman Island, loaded with explosives. It ends up exploding right in Big Mom's castle amidst the final chaos. All of Whole Cake has a huge explosion, giving the Straw Hats and allies time to escape. That comical twist, a gag from another arc, was an unexpected stroke of luck that practically saved Luffy from being caught at that moment. Of course, Big Mom survives, but it's a huge mess. Then there's Pedro's sacrifice, which was a sad twist. Just when it seemed everything would be fine, Pedro sacrifices himself to defeat Perospero and help the crew escape. I didn't think an allied character would die in this arc, but it happened. Bittersweet, yet significant. And let's not forget Luffy's battle against Katakuri. More than a twist, it's a development. Katakuri was revealed as a formidable opponent with his future sight, and the surprise was seeing his human side. Literally, when he takes off his scarf, revealing his enormous mouth, a complex for him, and Luffy manages to respect it. Katakuri, an enemy, ultimately grants Luffy respect, theatrically falling so Luffy wins by honor. That was unexpected. A Yonko commander acknowledging Luffy's moral victory, as Luffy had also earned his respect. Even Katakuri falls on his back, something he never did, just to show Luffy had won, an antagonist with a sense of honor who almost seemed to ally in spirit. It was a twist on the typical ruthless villain. Katakuri turned out quite decent, and we didn't see that coming at the fight's start. Whole Cake Island's biggest surprise was Pudding's treacherous redemptive duality. That was the biggest character plot twist. Also with Big Mom's dark past, Luffy's unexpected alliances of convenience with Beige, Sanji with his family for a while, and then seeing how everything was resolved thanks to the Tamata Bako. It was an arc full of family drama and strategic thing, showing that One Piece can be as emotionally intense as it is clever with plot twists. In the end, the Straw Hats escaped by the skin of their teeth. Big Mom was furious, and the arc planted the seed for a future confrontation with her once again. Whole Cake kept us guessing the loyalty of each character until the very last moment, turning its plot twists into a sweet and sometimes bitter narrative experience. The Reverie arc is short, but probably one of the most revealing in terms of the global plot because in just a few chapters it drops world-shattering information and huge cliffhangers. The Reverie's biggest plot twist is the reveal of a mysterious figure at power's peak, Imu-sama, who's apparently the world government's true ruler, sitting on the empty throne no one should occupy. This was a huge shock during the Reverie, the Global Conference of Kings. We see the Gorosei speaking with Imu-sama, and that figure in Mary Joyce's treasure room contemplating photos of Luffy, Shirahoshi, Vivi, Blackbeard, then sitting on the empty throne. What does this mean? Discovering someone important above the Gorosei, who were thought to be the ultimate authority, changes all we knew about power in One Piece. Imu's existence is top secret, but for us, it was the revelation that the Marines and the world government answered to a king in the shadows. That political twist sparks 1,000 theories. What does Imu want? Why does he have Vivi's photo? Is he deciding who to erase from history? Undoubtedly, Imu-sama's introduction is the biggest bombshell of the Reverie. Another crucial twist is the abolition of the Shichibukai system. Thanks to Cobra and Riku raising their voices, a vote is cast to end the Seven Warlords of the Sea, and it passes. This means Mihawk, Boa, Buggy, Weevil, all are immediately considered enemies again. We see Marines and Kobe preparing their arrests. This turn was expected by many, but it still marks a before and after. The Shichibukai were part of the three great powers of the sea, and their abolition leaves an enormous power vacuum. This foreshadows chaos. This global shift changes the dynamics we've known since almost the beginning of the series. The Reverie also resolves some mysteries. Sabo infiltrates the Reverie to rescue Kuma, who has been turned into a slave by the Celestial Dragons, a sad twist in itself. Kuma, a revolutionary who infiltrated the Shichibukai, ended up as a mindless slave. At the end of the Reverie, confusing news reported an assassination attempt on the Celestial Dragon Saint Charlos that was thwarted, and then that Sabo is dead or captured, leaving his revolutionary comrades crying in a newspaper. That left us cold. Did Sabo die? Spoiler. Later we'd learn he didn't die. It was a trick. But at that moment we were in shock. Like, again? There are also small but intense reunions. Vivi, Shirahoshi, Rebecca, and other friends of Luffy together in Mary Joyce talking about him, which was quite good. They encounter Saint Charlos trying to enslave Shirahoshi, but another Celestial Dragon appears, Saint Miosgard, who turns out to be good. He's the same one Otohime saved in the past, and he defends Shirahoshi by hitting Charlos with a mallet, a Celestial Dragon hitting another for a Fishman. Unbelievable, but it happened. It was so satisfying to see Charlos get his comeuppance most unexpectedly. Another highlight, Shanks briefly appears to speak with the Gorosei about a certain pirate. That cameo sparked wild theories. Is Shanks conspiring with the government? It was a subtle but interesting twist. Finally, Cobra, Alabasta's king, wanted to ask at the Reverie about the Void Century and Poneglyphs due to his ancestor Nefertari Lily. We see the Gorosei annoyed by this, and then it suggested that something happens to Cobra at the Reverie. At Wano's end, it was revealed he was murdered, with implications for Sabo and Imu. The Reverie sparked that intrigue. Cobra reported dead, Sabo implicated. A shock we didn't fully grasp, knowing things weren't quite right. In short, Reverie quickly revealed the major twist of Imu's existence, a supreme puppeteer in the world government. The unexpected but applauded measure to remove the Shichibukai, which is a huge change in the decades-long status quo of the series, and it foreshadowed upcoming conflicts with the confusing news of Sabo and Vivi. It's a mini arc, but each chapter was boom 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 with revelations. Many consider Imu-sama's appearance the craziest thing because it recontextualizes the idea that there's no world monarch, when in reality there is, but in the shadows. This twist has sparked speculation. Is he immortal? Is he from the Nefertari family? Is he related to Lily? The Reverie closed with the sense that huge things are happening behind the scenes, leaving us in brutal suspense right before the Wano arc. A reminder that One Piece isn't just about pirates fighting, but global secrets and plots that will explode in the final saga. What a powerful appetizer those Reverie chapters were. The Wano arc is a massive saga, split into acts, packed with twists in both the current narrative and its ties to ancient history. So extensive it has many memorable plot twists, but the most impactful, which blew up the fandom, was revealing Luffy's fruit's true nature. The Gomu Gomu no Mi is actually the Hito Hito no Mi, Model Nika, Sun God, and Luffy's corresponding transformation into Gear 5, embodying the warrior of liberation. This twist was monumental. During the final battle against Kaido, Luffy is seemingly defeated as Kaido knocks him out and his heart stops beating for a moment. And then suddenly, Luffy awakens new power. His body begins to freely change shape, emitting steam, and his hair turns white. The five elders in Mary Joyce, meanwhile, discuss the Gomu Gomu fruit, revealing it's a Zoan they've sought for 800 years. Truly named Hito Hito, Model Nika. It has a rubber body, granting immense power, limited only by the user's imagination. This leaves anyone speechless. Luffy's power is literally a god of joy and freedom. The government had tried to prevent it for centuries. When Luffy reappears before Kaido in this Gear 5 form, he does cartoonish stunts. He grabs the ground as if it were rubber to bounce Kaido. His eyes pop out cartoon style. He turns the mighty dragon into a jump rope. He laughs with unbridled joy. He is Joy Boy reborn, as Zunesha prophesied. This twist changes the perspective of everything. Luffy wasn't just a mere rubber man, his devil fruit was special, and his destiny even more so. And thematically, he turns battles into a festival of imagination. It was extremely unexpected that One Piece would break even its own art style rules. Luffy drawn in a cartoon style for his awakening. Before this bombshell, Wano had other twists. Wano's traitor was Kurozumi Kanjuro, a samurai who time traveled with Kinemon. For ages a spy was suspected, but finding out in the flower capital that Kanjuro had been selling them out was a painful shock. He reveals this while trying to kidnap Momonosuke, and they decide to confront their old comrade. This twist tied into Wano's theme, the Kurozumi Curse. Kanjuro, a consummate actor, played his role until the end, even returning as a spectral drawing to burn Kaido's castle. It was unexpected that one of Oden's friends would be so loyal to Orochi for revenge. Then we have Oden's fake death at Act 2's climax. The Red Scabbards see Kazuki Oden alive 20 years later, and for a second, everyone including us wants to believe. But it's quickly revealed as Kanjuro's drawing, meant to mock them, an illusory twist that gave us hope, then shattered it. Apu's betrayal, Kaido's ambush in Act 3's start, and though not surprising, his nature is just like that. Ixdrake turned out to be an undercover ally of Sword's Marines and turned against Kaido, asking to join Luffy, and this was a minor but interesting twist. Also Big Mom allying with Kaido, a duo of Yonkos that was a terrible twist. They didn't stay friendly forever, but when they team up, one thinks, how are they going to win now? Another dramatic twist is that Kaido decapitates Orochi with one slash in the middle of the party. Orochi, a disgusting villain, is suddenly betrayed by Kaido and seemingly dead. Then we learned his Yamata no Orochi fruit allowed him to survive with multiple heads. But that moment was quite cathartic or unexpected, seeing the Shogun begging and wham, head off. Though he didn't definitively die there, it was satisfying. In the climax, after Kaido and Big Mom's defeat in the manga, we see Luffy, Law, and Kid's bounties as new emperors, and Buggy comically becomes a Yonko by forming cross-guild with Mihawk and Crocodile. This post-arc era feels more like a level up and an epilogue. Returning to Wano's twists, the revelation that Kazuki Oden had a diary with the world's truth, read by Yamato, and would come in 20 years, is slowly being revealed in pieces. Yamato telling Momonosuke about Oden was sweet. Oh, and an adult Momonosuke. Shinobu used her power to age Momonosuke, turning him from a child into a 28-year-old. Seeing adult Momo in Oden's body was wow, and his giant pink dragon surprised Kaido. It wasn't a betrayal, but a what have they done moment. Then we have the second coup. Finally, when everyone thinks they've won, Kozuki Hiyori reveals her identity to Orochi. With Denjiro, they deliver the final blow as Orochi burns. Seeing Hiyori tell him the Kurozumi family was born to burn, repeating the words of hatred towards Orochi, inverted back at him, was a poetic and very controversial twist. Hiyori's cold revenge was unexpected, but she had it, and then the revelation that Pluton, the ancient weapon, is in Wano. That's what Sukiyaki tells Robin, another huge twist in the lore. Pluton wasn't in Alabasta, but in Wano, waiting to be released when Wano's borders are destroyed. This connects with Zunesha asking permission to open the borders and Momonosuke saying not yet. Incredible. The ancient weapon is dormant there and can be used in the future. Finally, Wano's border opening is postponed, and Momonosuke becomes Shogun in a great emotional moment. Perhaps it wasn't a twist so much as a culmination, but seeing Momonosuke present himself as an adult to his people was the final surprise for Wano's citizens. And we can't forget Gear 5. Luffy literally died for an instant. Zunesha saying that Joy Boy had returned. We had that tense moment, and then Luffy's laugh, which was community talk for months. So, from all of Wano, I'm most struck by the twist of Luffy's Oden-like fruit. After over 1,000 chapters, discovering the protagonist's greatest base power was a secret, and that he's the reborn incarnation of the mythical Joy Boy was a paradigm shift. Some saw it coming with clues, but many others didn't, and the way it manifests, with Luffy becoming an omnipotent cartoon character at times, was pure madness. The other twists, like Kanjuro's, fake Oden, Hiyori against Orochi, were very good, but this change altered One Piece forever. A 5-act kabuki play full of twists, betrayals, secret identities, fulfilled prophecies, and yes, the awakening of Nika, Wano's biggest plot twist, which left us all buzzing with excitement. Every One Piece arc has its special surprise, but Wano made sure to give us one of the most spectacular and unexpected in the entire series. And with that, we're heading towards the final saga with even higher stakes. The Egghead arc kept us on the edge of our seats with Vegapunk, his 6 satellites, and a big mystery. From the start, there were signs that something wasn't right on the futuristic island of Egghead. Security systems activated, communications cut, unexpected attacks. Was there a saboteur among the allies? The tension rose with each chapter and we all started theorizing wildly. Could it be an infiltrated CP0 agent, Caribou hiding somewhere, or even a traitor among the Vegapunks? Oda was building up to something big, and he certainly delivered. Then, boom, at the most critical moment, the unthinkable happened. Shaka, the most logical and fair satellite, is shot down. Surprise! Who on Earth pulled the trigger? The answer left us stunned. York, the cheerful and gluttonous satellite, was the traitor. That same York, who seemed only to care about eating and sleeping, stood there with a sinister smile and the smoking gun. The revelation of York as the infiltrator who was passing information to the world government left the community in shock. No one expected that the most innocent of the group would be the mastermind of chaos. Sweet York, secretly ambitious, sold out Vegapunk to fulfill her twisted dream of becoming a Tenryubito. What a plot twist! The way it was revealed was pure narrative genius, as York didn't just betray with words, she herself shot Shaka in the head, revealing her betrayal without remorse. In that instant, we were left speechless. That unexpected twist completely changed the arc's direction. The ally became an internal villain, and from that point on, it was all chaos and adrenaline. York's betrayal was the catalyst for a major war on Egghead, provoking Kizaru's immediate response and a full-scale marine offensive. Thanks to York, the Egghead incident escalated, with the island on the brink of destruction and secrets of the Void Century coming to light. In summary, the biggest plot twist of the Egghead arc was that unexpected betrayal from within that made us scream, "What?" It elevated the hype and confirmed that One Piece still knows how to keep surprising us. This moment will remain in our memories as one legendary time when Oda blew our minds, leaving us eager to see how the adventure continued after the Egghead incident. Other important things to mention would be, for example, the revelation of Emmed's existence. A robot who met Joy Boy, who held his haki in a knot and helped us escape in a fight against the Gorosei, releasing Joy Boy's haki, allowing Luffy and the others to head for Elbaf. Another revelation to discuss is Bonnie's entire past, revealing she's Kuma's daughter, Kuma's appearance and the whole plot surrounding him, the fact that Kuma was a slave belonging to the Buccaneer race, and all that implies is incredible. Even seeing they'd known Kizaru for a long time, were together, and considered themselves friends, and then seeing Kizaru had to finish Vegapunk off, it was a very tough, a very sad moment, but Oda represented it very well, and it will surely hold future importance. Not to mention the grand revelation of the Gorosei's true nature and appearance, as they manifest on Egghead Island, revealing their true forms, and are literally demons. They all launch an attack, and no matter how much they're defeated, they keep regenerating and coming back, seemingly invincible creatures. And as Sabo described when he was in Mary Joas, it looked like hell. To see how this whole battle unfolded and how all this developed was incredible. Another important plot twist regarding betrayal was that someone we thought was against us was actually on our side, and it's the character Stussy, who was affiliated with CP0, whom we believed was an enemy, and it turned out she was a clone of the real Stussy, who was Miss Buckin, who belonged to Zebek's crew, the Rocks Pirates, and who now turned out to be on our side. He betrayed Kaku and Lucci, enabling their capture and made things a bit easier for us in the arc. After the arc, this character seems dead, but obviously this is One Piece, so he'll still be alive. We assume we'll see him in future arcs, and he'll surely bring us something positive. And that concludes the best plot twist from each One Piece arc. Throughout this video, we've not only discussed the best plot twist of each arc, but we've also briefly reviewed each of the top plot twists, analyzing and comparing them all, and I sincerely believe this video turned out incredible. If you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe for more videos, and tell me in the comments what you thought, or if you'd add a different plot twist. I'll read your comments as always. So, a huge shout out to the best, most handsome, sexiest, most humble YouTuber in the entire One Piece community by far. A huge greeting, and I'll see you in the next video.